resources into this, don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
When we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? I mean, come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. Sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
Yeah, you gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Oh, he can drive. He can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there. Out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes. Every gear change, every corner. Perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it? What we do. It's passion, love, which is why we are prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race.
Welcome along once again, everybody. It's the 1991 San Marino Grand Prix in today's coverage at the Imola circuit, also known as the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari. Now, the third round of the championship is going to be a very important one for Ferrari. After they won the first two races of the year with their young German charge Michael Schumacher, they'll definitely be wanting to do it in their back garden. However, it looks as though there's quite a few teams that have started to make a big developmental progress after the first two races. The upgrades window has been and gone, and several teams are now on the pace. Before we get started with pre-qualifying, let's have a look at the latest news around the world of motorsport.
The first round of the 1991 Kart PBG IndyCar Series kicked off at Surfers Paradise in Australia, with Bobby Rahal and Emerson Fittipaldi leading the charge. Michael and Mario Andretti were very much at the forefront in their Newman Haas cars and could be very strong over the course of 1991. Michael Andretti in particular made Surfers Paradise his own personal playground, catching Bobby Rahal mid-race and storming through to take the victory. Michael Andretti would come across the line in first position in front of Bobby Rahal, with Sanson Jr. in third ahead of Rick Mears and Mario Andretti. Emerson Fittipaldi slumped back into sixth. The first round of the Sports Car World Championship was held in Suzuka in Japan, and despite a strong showing in qualifying, Toyota were not able to match the early initial pace of Peugeot drivers Philippe Alliot and Mauro Baldi. But elsewhere at the Sauber Mercedes, there was trouble. It would be a race of frustration for the team that discovered Michael Schumacher.
The damage is too bad to risk. Come into the pits now so we can make a few repairs.
So while Mercedes were left to play catch-up, Toyota did initially lead at one stage, with Lee Sendagawa getting himself in the mix. There were problems further back for Eurospice and Lancia, as they ended up dueling in the middle of the pack, Giacomelli and Morbidelli having sought refuge in the Italian squad. Then Peugeot's victory was thrown away as Mauro Baldi ended up making a mistake at the first hairpin. Game over. That handed the 1-2 victory to Jaguar, with Andy Wallace and John Nielsen getting the victory ahead of their teammates Perry McCarthy and David Coulthard, with Huysmans Zwartman in the Spice in third ahead of Toyota and Mercedes. The second race of the IndyCar Series took place at Long Beach in California, and it was looking like it could be yet another Michael Andretti whitewash. Certainly from qualifying, they were at the front end of the field nice and early. But as everybody struggled through the first few laps to make an impression, the attrition rate accelerated. Lynn St. James would be out of the race despite running as high as 6th at one stage, but out in front, Sanson Jr. was under pressure from Michael Andretti the whole way. Then Michael Andretti threw away the chance to go for the win with a spin on the final lap. It was embarrassing, and it was definitely not what the race winner in Surfers Paradise wanted to see. So Sanson Jr. took the victory in the second race of the season. Emerson Fittipaldi was able to elevate himself up into second position, and Michael Andretti had to lick his wounds and crawl across the line in third position. He still leads the championship, but it's a big mistake to make this early in the season. The International Formula 3000 Championship kicked off in earnest at Vallelunga in Italy, but those hoping for a decent opening race to the season were probably left disappointed. After an initial exciting start, Emanuele Naspetti and Jean-Marc Gounod led the initial rankings, with Paul Warwick, Alessandro Zanardi and Philippe Gache giving chase. There were some standout performances in the middle of the field, but as an event and a spectacle, it left a very sour taste in the mouth of spectators. It became a one-man freight train, as up in front, Emanuele Naspetti never really lost his opportunity to go for the victory, and once in the lead, he checked away. Jean-Marc Gounod and Paul Warwick were left to battle over second place, but nothing really changed between them, and it was a humdrum opener for F3000. Then came the third race of the IndyCar Championship and the first oval, Phoenix, Arizona. A big accident mid-race involving Kathy Muller of the Euromotor team and Guido Dacco of Porsche almost brought out the red flags. Fortunately, both drivers were perfectly okay, and Michael Andretti would finally have his first retirement of the season with an engine blow to his Newman Haas car. But just when we thought Michael Andretti was going to be the one who got all the bad luck of the team, his teammate Mario Andretti would have gearbox failure as well, putting both cars out of the race. So it's a big technical hitch for the Newman Haas team at Phoenix, Arizona, and the hope that at round 4, in preparation for the Indy 500 later in the year, they'll be much stronger. But it wasn't just the Newman Haas team who were in trouble. Emerson Fittipaldi was having a solid race to the podium behind Rick Mears and Bobby Rahal, and all of a sudden, his car burst into flames. The Penske team were out of the running for the victory. Several more big names would fall by the wayside, including Mears and John Andretti. Eventually, it would be Bobby Rahal that would emerge victorious after a great pit stop strategy. He emerged a lap ahead of Goodyear and Sullivan and held it to the flag. 3 different IndyCar races and 3 different winners: Michael Andretti, Sanson Jr., and now Bobby Rahal. Well, folks, that's the latest news, but obviously we now switch to Imola for pre-qualifying, and it's Eurobrun that have come out on top after the latest upgrades. Eddie Cheever ahead of Aguri Suzuki and Ukyo Kariyama, with the second of the Ford Eurobruns, Roberto Guerrero, there in P4. The Jordans are strong, Wendlinger and Barbazza. Then the Modena Lamborghinis of Paul Tracy and Eric Bernard on the fourth row of the grid. Rounding out the top 10, it's Andrea De Cesaris in the Coloni and Damon Hill behind him in the Dallara. Then Alan McNish and Roberto Moreno, still working very hard there. Nicola Larini alongside Rickard Rydell in the second of the Reals, I should say. Joe Winkelhock in the Zakspeed alongside Martin Donnelly in the Fon Metal. Then it is Tommy Byrne alongside Johnny Herbert, the Irishman and the Brit. JJ Leto in the Monteverdi Vaillant alongside Emanuele Pirro. Not a great qualifying from him. Roland Ratzenberger and Ivan Capelli going strong. Pierluigi Martini and Eric Comas. And at the back of the field, it is the two AGS of Hideki Noda and Laurent Aiello. So they're going to be starting right from the get-go to try and become one of the top 3 teams in this pre-qualifying run. It is half the distance on the Grand Prix, 31 laps. Eddie Cheever in unfamiliar territory for the Ford Eurobrun, pole position here at the San Marino Grand Prix pre-qualifying session, getting ready for the start here at Imola. And we're under starters' orders. Good start from Suzuki. He's going to launch past Cheever. No problems at all for the Honda to get through on the initial start as everybody powers on the throttle around the parabolica. They keep it flat out all the way through. And still Eddie Cheever just trying to get close enough to Aguri Suzuki, having got the initial pole position, but that Honda is very fast and very powerful off the line. So the Honda team out in first. Suzuki ahead of Cheever, Katayama and Wendlinger. Good start from the Jordan then. Up into fourth position as Eric Comas tries to stay out of trouble in the Minardi. And Eric Bernard is working very hard there as well. The Frenchman helping to improve the fortunes of the Modena Lamborghini team. So some good work so far from several of the competitors as they continue to make solid progress as the field works its way through here. Just trying to make up as much progress as humanly possible on the opening lap here at the San Marino Grand Prix in Imola. This, of course, pre-qualifying. The first 3 teams across the finish line are the ones that go through to the Grand Prix itself. Look at how close it is between Suzuki and Cheever. Cheever clearly has a fast car around here, so he wants to try and get the moves on our race leader, Aguri Suzuki, in the Honda, sponsored as it is, of course, by Leighton House. Aguri Suzuki running up at the front end of the field in fine style. There is Roberto Guerrero, the Colombian, having had a very solid start to his race. P5 for him, but he lost ground initially on the start to Wendlinger. So it's Suzuki, Cheever, Katayama, Wendlinger, Guerrero, Tracy, De Cesaris, Bernard, Barbazza, and young Damon Hill. Barbazza trying to have a look there on the inside of Eric Bernard through the parabolica, but that is a very tough corner to make the bid for the overtake. Barbazza did not want to take too big a gamble. He's on home soil, of course, so is this going to be the chance? No, he bails out of the move again. So no overtaking move on Eric Bernard on this particular occasion. Mikio Katayama climbing up the hill in the second of the Hondas. And there's Roberto Moreno, the Brazilian, trying to get his move on the inside of Alan McNish. So the Scottish driver doing a fair job there for the Real team in 11th position. Those Ilmor engines definitely looking a lot stronger now as Aguri Suzuki leads the way for Honda. Eddie Cheever is there in second, and that's Martini in the Minardi. And they're having a real struggle, the Minardis, actually, around the Imola circuit. Ratzenberger trying to make up progress after a difficult start. He's really not had the best of things so far here at Imola, Roland Ratzenberger, but the Lego Fon Metal driver is trying to work his way further forward, and there's the opportunity for Ratzenberger. Is he going to take it? No, he does not. So no overtake there from Ratzenberger. There's Katayama. So third position for the Japanese driver so far. There's already a little bit of toing and froing in this Honda team as to who is the team leader. Both drivers are quite determined to ensure that it's them. Got a place for Wendlinger. Guerrero in the second of the Ford Eurobruns. Here's Barbazza trying again. Once more, Eric Bernard slams the Modena into his path. No chance of getting through, and another big twitch there from Andrea De Cesaris as he tried to go for Paul Tracy. This time the move is on, surely for Barbazza on Bernard, and it is indeed. Damon Hill trying to cut in on the inside of that gap as well in the Converse Dallara, but it's not going to happen on this occasion. So, Damon Hill having to sit back in 10th position and allow it all to take place in front of him. Eric Bernard in the Modena Lamborghini is the man in front, and it's Lamborghini versus Ferrari in terms of the engines of those two cars. But Katayama starting to settle into a bit of a rhythm now and trying to chase down Eddie Cheever in the Ford Eurobruns. All sorts of wild rumours flying around the Ford Eurobruns camp as to what kind of spectacle we can expect to see from that team over the coming weeks. Damon Hill making his bid on the inside. Did he get through? No, he's had to bail out of that one from Eric Bernard. So a very tricky situation, but it's not going to come to fruition on this occasion. Here is the second of the two Hondas. It's Ukyo Katayama. We're now tuning away watching Bernard and Hill still grappling for 9th and 10th positions as they continue to duel away. This is a very close run thing between Bernard and Hill. As they come back into position. And that's Suzuki! That is Aguri Suzuki! Eddie Cheever's going to get past him and take the lead. Aguri Suzuki is out. The car is on fire. This is only lap 4. My goodness me, they've made the Hondas much faster, but they are not as reliable as they used to be. Well, certainly here at Imola, that is a big disaster for Aguri Suzuki. He's not going to hold his teammate up for long. Carl Wendlinger is going to pick up the pieces into 3rd position as Aguri Suzuki parks the car, and that is game over for the Japanese driver, who is easily the favourite to win this one at one stage. But now it's not going to happen, so Suzuki is already out of it. My goodness, what a tough situation. So there it is, and I'm afraid that is one retirement already. Cheever leads the way then, inheriting the lead from Suzuki. And look at the battle going on here between the Minardi of, that's got to be Comas, hasn't it, who is currently behind his teammate Martini, and Roman Ratzenberger, who is trying to cut through up the inside. And yet again, there is no dice. Roman Ratzenberger finds himself stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's Laurent Aiello in the AGS further back, trying to work his way further forward up the field as well. So some tricky moments there. But Chiva, Katayama, Wendlinger, Guerrero and Tracy are your top 5 at the moment. And that means that the top 3 cars that are going to go through are the Eurobruns, the Hondas and the Jordans. Here's Damon Hill making his bid on the inside of Eric Bernard, but he can't find a way through in the Converse Dallara, so he's going to have to bail out of it for the time being and have another look to try and make his way through. There is Carl Wendlinger now. He's got pressure from Roberto Guerrero. As Nicola Larini going for the move. That is on Alan McNish, and he's had to bail out of that one big time. Roberto Moreno in the second of the Colonis behind teammate Andrea De Cesaris might get the chance here to move his way further forward. As we watch Carl Wendlinger in the Jordan. So it is up to Jordan Ferrari, currently running in 3rd position, looking good enough to get through at this stage. In the Real, still going strong. A fabulous run out in 1st position for Eddie Cheever, now that his main rival for this one, Aguri Suzuki, has been dropped away from the flank. So this is a really tricky situation, and that's Hideki Noda. That is a spin for Noda. So Noda has spun it, and there's a car in front of him in some kind of trouble. We're going to get to see the replay of what happened here to Hideki Noda. There's a car in front having some difficulty, and Noda is just going to roll off the road here. Very unfortunate for the Japanese driver in the AGS. But Hideki Noda is out of the race, and who's that? Oh no, Noda has managed to recover. I do apologise, but who's that in trouble? You can see the smoke billowing. It's Capelli. Ivan Capelli, I'm afraid, is in dire straits in the Vaillant Monteverdi. So Ivan Capelli having all kinds of difficulties, and I'm afraid it's going to be game over for him. Wow, big disaster. So there's his teammate, JJ Leto, who is still having a bit of an interesting run of it. Is that going to be him up the inside? Nice and easy to get past Johnny Herbert. So no issues there for Leto as he just storms past the Brit. Meanwhile, Barbatza in the second of the Jordans, just running in behind Carl Wendlinger, who is in 3rd place, which is great news. We have 3 different teams in the top 3, and they are currently the 3 teams set to go through. So Cheever is your leader. Katayama in 2nd, and there is Ivan Capelli finally pulling off. As Hideki Noda is going to storm past him. Ooh, a bit of a twitch there from the AGS. Not easy when you've got a car in front of you that's smoking badly and getting close to breakdown mode. So Ivan Capelli, I'm afraid, is going to be retiring from this race. The Italian on home soil in the Vaillant Monteverdi, not going any further here at Imola in pre-qualifying. So, a tough situation for the Monteverdi team from Switzerland as they now park it permanently from one of their cars. Now, here's the Cesaris getting his run finally on Paul Tracy, the Canadian. Well, Tracy is not making it very easy at all. This talented youngster from Canada really starting to make a good play of things now. And there is Ukyo Katayama getting his run. As Nicola Larini still battles just outside the top 10, trying to make his way back through into it. If he gets just the slightest hint of an opportunity, he's going to go for it. But he obviously needs to get past first McNish, then Hill, then Bernard. There's a lot of progress needing to be made here by the Reynard team if they want to get through to the Grand Prix. So through they come again. On the far side, we've still got some battles further back. Here's Eric Comas in the Minardi, still dueling away, of course. The team that is based only 50 kilometres from this race circuit is Moreno, dueling away for position there. He was dueling with McNish still. No major changes between the two of them, as Katayama is still out in second place. Now, Chiva and Katayama are on similar fuel loads. You do get the occasional driver who decides to go all the way through this 50% race without a pit stop, and that's exactly what Eric Bernard is attempting. No wonder Damon Hill is struggling to get past him. McNish is also on a heavy fuel load run. So we have to see how many others of these drivers are trying it. Well, Joe Winkelhock is trying to go the whole way without a pit stop. He's finding it very tricky to hold on to it. So not many drivers choosing that strategy this time. It's Johnny Herbert. I wonder if he's one of them, actually, because he was plummeting down the field rather rapidly. He's up the inside. That looked like Martin Donnelly having a go at Rickard Rydell, the Swede. He's not really been able to make that overtaking move come to fruition either. So still, the competitors battle away here, hoping to be one of the first three teams across the finish line. That's the only way to get into the Grand Prix here at Imola for the San Marino Grand Prix of 1991. And that's the move on the inside from Ratzenberger. Nice overtake from the Austrian. And that will hopefully set him on a bit of a charge forward. So Alan McNish chopping right across on Roberto Moreno on this occasion. Moreno having absolutely no response for him. As we look at Nicola Larini pulling out of the race. He's got an engine failure in that car, so that's the Reynard out of the race. Poor Nicola Larini. No luck at all for him here at Imola. So I'm afraid that is one of the two Italian drivers in the Reynard team that is now out of the race. And that's really unfortunate indeed for Nicola Larini. So Larini is the latest victim of the pre-qualifying attrition rate. That's Guerrero slowing. That's Guerrero in the Eurobrun, I do believe. It is indeed. And that is a puncture for Roberto Guerrero, the Colombian. So I'm afraid Roberto Guerrero is now out of the race as well. Big disaster at Ford Eurobrun. One of them leading the race, the other one dropping out. So you can see that it's still very tricky to hold on, even if you're the leading team, to get both cars through. Particularly tough in pre-qualifying because these cars do not have the same development time, they do not have the same budgets as the top 10 teams in the Grand Prix. They're having to prove they can do a lot with a little. So Katayama trying to chase down Eddie Chiva. Carl Wendlinger in the Jordan is third. Paul Tracy hoping to put Modena through to their first Grand Prix of 1991. And that, of course, would be their first ever start in Formula One. Tracy appears to be dropping back, so it's not going too well for Paul Tracy. Is the Canadian dropping out of the race now? Wendlinger still running a solid third. And Tracy is dropping back. There is Tracy. Well, I'm afraid the Canadian, no luck at all. And you can see on the dial there of his cockpit that it says that he has a water leak, so I'm afraid Paul Tracy is retiring from this pre-qualifying race as well. So very unfortunate. Well, a very difficult situation then, as cars are still falling by the wayside after just 9 laps of competition around Imola. It's a tough circuit. It is a bit of a car breaker. You've got to remember these engines are running at high speed for quite a long time out of the final turn all the way down to Tosa. So it's putting a lot of strain on the engines and on various other car parts. So a difficult one then for the Modena team to take. I'm afraid his race, Paul Tracy's race, well and truly over. So that actually keeps Coloni in the opportunity to go for it. And look, 5 retirements already. Tracy, Guerrero, Larini, Capelli and Suzuki. So big problems for 5 teams already who have lost a car. But for Ford Eurobrun, this is great news. They're out in front. Martin Donnelly, 11th position currently in the Lego Fonmetal. They've definitely made some gains compared to earlier in the season. So they are still working hard. Katayama on lap 11 as Martin Donnelly bounces right up on... Oh! De Cesaris in trouble now! My goodness! And De Cesaris has a loose wheel. Now, I wonder if he made contact with somebody, but again, that is yet another big issue for one of the leading contenders. De Cesaris is out of the race now. So 6 of them have gone already in the early stages of pre-qualifying. We're only 10 laps in. My goodness. Big problems there, and you can see that Guerrero's car is now having to be manoeuvred again by the marshals, because obviously that's another car to park up. Well, De Cesaris and the Coloni is now gone. That's yet another name falling by the wayside. So through they come. This is the Minardi versus AGS duel. This is Laurent Aiello trying to get one over on Eric Comas. And look at Hideki Noda. Noda's actually caught up with them again. So Noda has made a massive amount of progress. He's made several seconds up there. I wonder if those two at the back are on a heavier fuel load than Noda. Meanwhile, Katayama struggling to get it through around the final turn, but still running well in second place. There is Damon Hill keeping Dallara, well and truly in the game, in 5th position at the moment. So a really interesting situation then for the contenders. Chiba, Katayama, Benlinger, Babazza, Hill and Bernard. 6 fantastic drivers in the mix there. Jordan having a great race so far. 3rd and 4th at the moment in front of Damon Hill, but they need to keep this throughout, because obviously if they drop back, that is going to be an opportunity for Dallara. But for some reason, Johnny Herbert, who actually pops up on our screen in that moment, is just not finding the raw pace compared to his teammate Damon Hill, who is right over the sharp end. So Johnny Herbert in the Converse Dallara Ferrari really not finding the same sort of pace that his teammate has been able to find. Either that or he's just on the full tank of fuel to try and get him to the end, as Aiello has another crack at Eric Comas. GS versus Minardi again. And there's Eric Bernard. Another charge to try and put the Modena team into the Grand Prix for the first time in 1991. The Martini Modena Lamborghini squad. The car looks absolutely stunning in its Martini colours. Unfortunately, they haven't quite made it through to a Grand Prix yet, but maybe today it's going to change for this Lamborghini-backed team. This is essentially the Lamborghini works effort, if you like. So still the battles rage on here at Imola in the pre-qualifying battle. What a battle. What about it is turning out to be at the moment. So Wendlinger still working hard. Trying to keep that Jordan far enough ahead of his rivals so that when the one-stoppers pit, he's going to get out in a competitive enough position. That's where qualification can be won and lost. If you go for a one-stop strategy and keep the car out there, look after the tyres well, then you might just get a shot to go through anyway, but it doesn't always work as a strategy. It's a big gamble. Because obviously you've got a heavy fuel load, you don't need to come in for fuel, but you also don't come in for tyres, and the tyres work a lot harder. As Martini gets out of the way of the resurgent JJ Leto. The JJ Leto is trying... Oh, that's Babazza! Well, big disaster then for Jordan as Fabrizio Babazza parks it up at the side of the road. That's one of the Jordans now gone. So now everybody in the top 5, every team that's in that top 5 has got a car either out of the race or in trouble. And Wendlinger's going off! I don't believe it! Carl Wendlinger retiring, he's got a puncture! He can't make it back to the pits, and Jordan are out! We've lost Babazza, and then immediately we lose Wendlinger as well! So Jordan will not make it through to the San Marino Grand Prix. What a heartbreaker! Absolutely unbelievable luck as Damon Hill comes into the pits from 3rd position, so Dallara now get into 3rd position but they come straight into the pits. So in comes Roberto Moreno. That's a Coloni pit stop. So we'll try and follow the Coloni team's progress with Brazilian Roberto Moreno. He's in the pits, hoping for a good stop. 8.8 seconds, but look, everybody's coming in. Now, disaster for Wendlinger. If he'd have just made it back to the pits, I think Jordan might have had an opportunity to get through. But unfortunately, it's not to be this time. Double trouble for the Jordan team. They are out. Well, no, Johnny Herbert isn't on the no-stop strategy, I should say, because he's now pitted. So he really has absolutely zero pace whatsoever. It's a big problem indeed there. That is absolutely not where he wanted to be over the course of this race, as Cheever comes into the pits from the lead. So the Ford Eurobrun out in front will now come in, and so will Katayama. So another pit stop for Honda. And then you have one in pre-qualifying, of course, because Aguri Suzuki, the former race leader, is already out of the race. 9.3 seconds, not bad at all. Cheever's already out in front of him. Is Cheever going to take the lead of the race back again, or will Bernard take it away? No, Cheever is going to take the lead. And is Katayama going to get out in front of Bernard? Yes, he is. Now, Bernard, I believe, is going the whole distance without making a pit stop, at least attempting to, in the Modena Lamborghini. Now, if he can hold the course, then they're going to go through. As there is Martini dueling away for position. Leto comes into the pits in the Monteverde. He climbed as high as P6 at one stage. Ratzenberger's done well by staying out. He got himself into the top 10 there. And Noda even got into the top 10 very briefly. So, really interesting situation then. Leto, Ratzenberger and Noda all in pit lane at the moment, as Eddie Cheever, the American star, continues to battle away up front. This is exactly what he wanted, exactly what he needed to continue making the solid progress up front. So we're looking to see how it all continues to progress, but it's not easy to predict who's going to get this one. I don't think we expected the Ford Eurobrun outfit to be as fast as they are, straight out of the blocks, and yet they have got good speed, good pace, and they definitely have good motivation in that team. And Ford Eurobrun making it very clear this is the Works Ford package. There's even a suggestion that the Eurobrun name might disappear from Formula One. They still have an operation, of course, here in Formula One and in the World Sports Car Championship, as they have their own Brun prototype Group C race car, which is currently racing in the Sports Car World Championship. But I think there's still some quarters that would like the name to stay in Formula One as well. But the Ford Works team, of course, is very much the guys in orange. So Cheever out in first position, Katayama second place from Bernard, and then McNish, Winkelhock and Damon Hill. So Joe Winkelhock is one of the drivers that's trying to go the full distance. Let's not negate his opportunity, because he is there in the Zach speed, trying to go the whole distance, as is Alan McNish in the Real, actually. So Alan McNish might get a chance to sneak the Real team into the Grand Prix just by virtue of the fact that he is there or thereabouts. As we look at Eric Bernard, third position for the Frenchman in the Martini Modena Lamborghini. He's still doing his absolute utmost to get the team into the Grand Prix for the first time in their fledgling career. A very solid strategy this is for Eric Bernard. He's only 9.8 seconds off the pace of Eddie Cheever. He's not far behind them. Katayama continues to go through. Look in the background. We didn't quite get the chance to see the Modena Lamborghini, but it is there in third place, halfway through this pre-qualifying bout. And of course, only the top three teams will join the established guard in the Grand Prix itself, as Eric Bernard continues to pound the car around. They've made massive strides forward, the Modena Lamborghini team, compared to where they were in the Americas. Now that the teams have returned to Europe, they've brought their secret weapons, their upgrades, their development, which will hopefully bring the cars up to speed. But it's always a challenge. As team managers, they will always have to balance the difference between speed and reliability. But the faster you make the car go, the more unreliable it becomes. It's always a tricky challenge. Riding on board with Alan McNish, the Scottish driver, currently finds himself in fourth position by staying out there. Alan McNish still riding a very solid freight train at the moment as he continues in fine progress. Eric Bernard running well in position. Third place currently at the moment. This is good for Modena. He's dropping back a bit. He is losing a few seconds now because obviously those tyres have been overworked. And now Damon Hill making the bid on Alan McNish. Two British stars of the future in Formula One for sure. Alan McNish and Damon Hill, they both come hot foot from the world of Formula 3000 over the last couple of seasons. And now they really are supreme talents. So there is Eric Bernard, really starting to make good on his promises as a talent to watch out for. The Frenchman, a good opportunity here, and obviously wanting to take full advantage of it. As we battle away, this is Alan McNish trying to shake off Damon Hill. Damon Hill getting very feisty out there now. So this is going to get pretty spicy before too long. And Rickard Rydell, the Swede, is trying to take on Eric Comas in the Minardi, who has stayed out for the full course. So is Eric Comas going to be able to sustain a top 10 finish? That will definitely keep team principal Mike Gillespie happy. But Eddie Cheever is out in front. The American going beautifully. Here's Hideki Noda taking on his teammate, Laurent Aiello. So that's an interesting little rivalry between the two cars here. The two Duracell AGS Judds taking on a fair amount of clout from Duracell. Hopefully that's going to help them move up the field a little bit. And Damon Hill has made the move on McNish. I'm afraid we didn't spot it. But Damon Hill has got through, and that's why. Oh! And McNish has collided with Winkelhock. That is a big incident. McNish was retiring from the race anyway, but Joe Winkelhock had absolutely nowhere to go. Let's look at it. And look, McNish is pulling across on Joe Winkelhock in the Nickelodeon Zaxby BMW. And that is worth another look. My goodness. So we're going to ride on board with Joe Winkelhock. You can see he has no vision at all. And he pulls across. McNish has absolutely no warning of what he's going to do. Winkelhock is, well, his car is damaged, so any chance that Zaxby might have had of getting through is now well and truly gone. And obviously it is for Real as well. So very difficult to say whether Alan McNish did that on purpose or just wasn't paying attention, or I have a feeling the Zaxby team will want to take issue with that, because that's definitely ruined any chance that Joe Winkelhock and the Zaxby team might have had of qualifying. Aiello and Noda having their own private battle. There's the other Zaxby, that's Tommy Byrne, the Irishman, trying to close up on Comas and Donnelly. And Martin Donnelly in the Lego Fondmetal trying to make his bid now on Comas. As we go back to Katayama, he just can't run with Cheever. Tell you what, this Ford Eurobron is looking much quicker. And this is great work from their entire crew, led as they are by team principal Giacomo Pagliaro. So Giacomo Pagliaro hoping that this is going to be the start of the Renaissance. So fascinating as Bernard continues to bring Modena to the top of the plate. Now, by staying out and watching everything else unfold behind him, Bernard has ended up getting himself into a fairly decent position with 12 laps remaining. And it looks to me as though Bernard might not get caught here. If he can hold on to third place, then they're going through. So Minardi versus Fondmetal versus Zaxby. Winkelhock is rejoined behind Ratzenberger and Martini. Ratzenberger still trying to make an opportunity come to him here, as Eddie Cheever just keeps on counting down laps. No problems at all for the American, just keeping it nice and comfortable. He doesn't need to panic too much, nor does Katayama in the Honda in second position with its Leighton House support. There are still rumblings about whether or not the March manufacturer that this team kind of bases their chassis on is still in favour of the direction that the Honda outfit is going, but obviously there's still good reason to be cheerful. There is Martin Donnelly making his bid now up the inside, and Martin Donnelly in the Lego Fondmetal gets through. Very nicely handled, so that's a great move from Donnelly. Put him up at the 7th place past Comas in the Minardi, with Byrne and Herbert not that far away. that you have to ask after the initial pace in the Americas, where is the pace from Johnny Herbert this race? Because he's just nowhere near the same mark as his teammate Damon Hill. There's about 20 seconds difference between them. And that's Comas dropping back. As Comas in the Minardi, he's got a throttle issue. So I'm afraid Eric Comas in the Minardi is now struggling. He's going to drop back now behind Johnny Herbert, behind JJ Leto. But the big question is, can he make it back to the pits in time? Because if he can, then obviously they're going to be able to reset the car. Comas can keep going. But it's quite a long lap here at Imola. It's very fast. The good news is that it's downhill from here. So Comas should be able to just coast it back into the pits and he'll be able to keep going, and indeed he will. So there are problems for Minardi and Eric Comas, but at least he can bring it back. Wow, a fascinating situation. Joe Beaglehawk making the bid to get back into it. He tried to take on Pierluigi Martini. He's not going to get the chance there, unfortunately. 11 laps remain in this pre-qualifying bout. Of course, the Grand Prix itself is still going to have plenty of suspense and drama thrown all around it. But Eric Bernard in the Modena Lamborghini holding on to that third position for the moment, as Aiello and Noda are still dueling in the Duracell AGS cars. Having a very good run of it as they go up the hill. Katayama is not actually a million miles away from lapping them. It's the kind of pace that they've got. In fact, Chiva has lapped Eric Comas in the Minardi based on the fact that Comas had to come into the pits to fix those throttle problems. So while he is a lap down, that's not really based on pure speed for Comas. It's unfortunate that he had those difficulties because now he drops a lap away from the pace. So, still some headaches, unfortunately, facing the team. And these AGS teammates, they haven't got anybody else to battle, so they may as well duel with each other. That is exactly what's happening. Oh, Bernard just pushing a little bit hard there at the top of the hill. Looks to me as though he may have had a little bit of a headache. They're trying to get the car back under control once again, but Eric Bernard still hunting down that podium in third position, in the hope that there is going to be a first Grand Prix, and where better to do it as well than on home soil here in Imola. That really would be satisfying, as Ratzenberger appears to be slowing. Oh, the gearbox failure for Ratzenberger. That's very unfortunate after putting on such a spectacular show in Brazil. I'm afraid the Austrian Roland Ratzenberger is going no further here at Imola. He was doing such a good job up to that point as well. He was really starting to make a bit of an impression. But unfortunately, it is bad luck for the Von Metal team. And that's Emanuele Pirro. Goodness me, Pirro in the Reynard, getting it very badly wrong down the hill. He was lucky to keep that on the road, to be fair. So Emanuele Pirro having a bit of a difficulty, but he manages to keep the car on the straight now. Look at that, 10 cars have already gone from this race. It's a high one for attrition, as Hideki Noda is still dueling with his teammate, Laura Aiello. So, if you can't race against anybody, you may as well race against each other. Excellent battling, though. And so, the heat continues, but Eric Bernard just adds another lap, just keeps strolling along. Looks pretty neat and tidy from his point of view, doesn't it? He just needs to keep it on the straight and narrow. And Bernard and the Modena Lamborghini team looking strong. From 8th on the grid as well, Eric Bernard. And still, these two are just dueling away between each other. The AGS twins are just having a great battle between each other, and why not? So Lauren Aiello and Hideki Noda still just giving us a real entertainment at the moment. And there is Eddie Cheever. And now Eric Bernard in position. This is a nice renaissance of a Grand Prix career for Eddie Cheever. He was quite prepared to head back to America in the hope that he could pick up a decent ride in IndyCar, but offered this chance by Ford, who really wanted an American in the car. And of course, Ford really hoping to have a lasting impact in Formula One. I think it's going to be the start of a bit of an American injection into the Formula One world in 1992. There's already suggestions that the Americans want to have a real presence in Formula One in the future. Certainly the announcement early this year that the American Grand Prix will stay on the calendar indefinitely as the season opener, but it will go to a different race circuit every year. It's quite an incredible challenge for the Grand Prix World Championship, because obviously they are still going to have a lot of hard work organising all those different circuits each year, but there's enough places to go to that have good quality world motorsport. So, Ukyo Katayama, 4.6 seconds back from the American Eddie Cheever. So the Honda is still fast, it's still up at the sharp end, but it's not the class of the field in Imola. The new Ford Eurobrun doing the best job here with Eddie Cheever at the wheel. He seems motivated and back where he belongs. They said it was going to be a bit of a slow burner start to the season, but now they are right on the pace. And you kind of get the impression that it's going to be a little bit of a pendulum swing between Honda and Ford. Leighton House and Eurobrun, if you like, over the course of pre-qualifying this year. Now there's Tommy Byrne, very talented individual. A lot of people say he is not the most easy driver in the paddock to work with, but in terms of his raw speed, he is definitely starting to show people what he is made of. And now it's going to be a case of, can he get himself into the high end of the grid? Because at the moment, Zach Speed is giving him a decent platform. He really wants to have a little bit more opportunity to run towards the sharp end. This man, though, is going to get into the Grand Prix if it stays like this, and he's only got 7 more laps to complete. Oh, careful though, Eric. You don't want to be pushing that. Just hopping over the curbs with a little bit too much aggression. Noda and Aiello are still at it. These two really having a great duel. Well, I suppose the team don't really have to worry about team orders. Neither of them are looking through to get into the Grand Prix anyway, so they may as well just race each other. Why not? Noda and Aiello having a very nice time of it as Eric Komas is about to get lapped here by Ukyo Katayama. The Japanese driver makes his way through. No major headaches there for Katayama, who is now, of course, in second position. Bernard in third. Hill is in fourth. Roberto Moreno, the Brazilian, and the Coloni is in fifth place, but that's not going to be good enough to get through, unfortunately. And then Ricard Rydell is currently in P6. So there is the Honda of Ukyo Katayama. A very solid run indeed for the Japanese driver so far, as he just continues to run in behind Cheever, who is very much the class of the field up front. Bernard is staying within half a minute for the moment, but obviously with just a handful of laps to go, he needs to look after the tyres, he needs to look after the car itself, just needs to keep it on the road. So, a very tough racing prospect. Cheever, Katayama and Bernard. It looks as though it's going to be Ford Eurobrun, Honda, and the Modena Lamborghini team that will get their way through. And still these two are just wheel to wheel the whole way round. Who cares that they are not in the battle for the victory? They're not in the battle even to get through, but they're having an amazing race duel, these two. Noda and Aiello, that could last the whole season as well between these two racers. And they're having a lot of fun out there. I'll bet team boss Chris Ozzie is just letting them do their thing. Great run. So there is Damon Hill, just 1 place away from qualification. If the Dallara keeps going longer than the Modena and can catch up, and they're going to get through. But crucially, Damon Hill isn't really catching Eric Bernard at this point. There's 5 laps to go. The gap is still steady at 12 and a bit seconds. So that's not going to be good enough. In fact, it's not going to be anywhere near good enough to sustain a challenge to get them up the order. So I'm afraid Damon Hill's got to hope that one of the cars in front is going to go pop. Now there is the leader, Cheever, making his way through the AGS car, so they have to suspend battling for the moment. Eric Bernard continues on his merry way. Cheever trying his best not to trip over these AGS twins. That was a close one for Cheever. 4 laps to go. And the American is doing a great job out in front. He just needs to keep on doing it. There's Eric Bernard. Looking good to put the Modena Lamborghini team into their first ever Grand Prix here at Imola for the San Marino Grand Prix of 1991. Just keeping it flowing, just keeping it together. And so far, it is a great run. Chiva, Katayama, and Bernard. Then Damon Hill. Moreno in 5th position. Rydell in 6th. And then it is Donnelly in front of Byrne, Herbert, and Leto. Katayama now has to try not to trip over the 2 AGS cars. Patience is a virtue. Just think, you'll only have to deal with them for the next couple of laps. And then you can focus on the Grand Prix, Ukyo. Ukyo's going to make the dive up the inside. No problems at all. As Noda gets out of the way and lets his countryman through. He doesn't want to fall out with his fellow Japanese driver. So Katayama is continuing in 2nd place. I hope that there's going to be a little bit more traffic so we can catch back up to Eddie Cheever. The Americans certainly seem to have the measure of this car, this circuit, and this situation. Through they continue. They storm around the course. Still some great racing. Roberto Moreno can't really afford to make mistakes like that, especially if somebody up front is going to have an issue. Roberto needs to stay as close to the leading quartet as humanly possible. You never know in this sport just when things are going to change. And certainly team boss Lewis Bassendale is going to be quite eager that Roberto Moreno doesn't go over the limit. So Bernard, 3 laps to go. Modena Lamborghini, this is going to be a landmark moment, and where better to do it than in Imola as Katayama pushing hard. He's managed to catch up to Cheever just a little bit. The gap is down to 3.4 seconds. But Katayama is trying to maximise everything he can from this Honda. I think he just took a little bit too long to lap the AGS cars. And 3.4 seconds, yeah, he's kept it about the same really between himself and Cheever as he comes through this time. The gap's gone up again. Shiva has responded by setting another fastest sector. Eddie Cheever in the Ford Europa and Jägermeister having a great run. The American looking to give team boss Giacomo Pagliaro his first ever win. As a team boss, yes, it's going to be in pre-qualifying, not overall, but it's certainly a good start in only the Italian manager's 3rd race in charge of this Ford Eurobrun team. Katayama, 4 seconds back now, 2 to go. Is this going to be Ford Eurobrun's first chance to taste victory? Noda trying to shake off Comas, who has made such great work actually, Eric Comas, to catch up to these AGS cars, and is now right on their tail. Comas is going for it, he will dive, and he will go through. No worries at all for Eric Comas. He's got about a lap and a half to catch and pass his countryman Lauren Aiello as well. No problems for Katayama, but he needs to catch up. He's gained 2 tenths of a second in the last sector. But Cheever is really strong in this part of the course. That's where Ford Eurobrun really comes into its own. Bernard is over half a minute back, but crucially, he's still pulling clear of Damon Hill in the Dallara. Then Moreno in the Coloni, Rydell in the Real. They've made a big stride forward. Team boss Marcus Johansson can be quite pleased about that. They've made a massive step forward in terms of their competitive nature. But still, the battles rage on around the course. Comes Cheever. He's continuing on his tour. On the final bend, on the home straight. Up towards the Tamburello. For the last time in this race. And Eddie Cheever is just 1 lap away, not even that now, from giving Ford Eurobrun their first pre-qualifying success. And there goes Comas making his bid on Aiello. Aiello very determined to keep him behind though. So Laura Aiello is not going to make this easy for Eric Comas. Comas in the Minardi is going to try and make his way into 14th position as Bernard is going to start the last lap. Oh, Tommy Byrne's in trouble! On the very last lap here at Imola. No, it's not Byrne. Byrne is the one who gets through. Oh, it's the Von Metal. It's Donnelly. Donnelly's in trouble on the last lap. Now, is Donnelly going to be able to bring that home? My goodness, that is dramatic. As Johnny Herbert now slices through past Donnelly. Donnelly's just got to try and bring that to the flag as Winkelhock gets through. Wow, that is drama indeed. A big issue there. A big issue. As now the AGS twins are able to continue racing to the line. But out in front, it's going to be Eddie Cheever that takes the victory. The director has not quite got his skates on here to pick up the race winner, but Eddie Cheever is going to come through, and he will take the victory for the Ford Eurobred team. There is Eddie Cheever. It's perfect timing, but Martin Donnelly is slowing to a crawl. He's going to drop out, but Eddie Cheever is the man who is going to pick up the race victory. A great run for the Ford Eurobred Jägermeister. Eddie Cheever gets the win. Our director is not really looking in the right place, unfortunately. I do apologise for that. But certainly, Cheever's got the job done in front of Katayama. And Martin Donnelly, rather sadly, is parking his car before he gets to the finish. Very unfortunate indeed. But it is Eddie Cheever from Ukiyo, and Laurent Aiello is parking it, but that is post-flag. So Laurent Aiello has run out of fuel by the look of it, as they have come home. Well, that's how thirsty the Judd engine is, I guess. And there's Eric Bernard. He's come home in third position to give Modena their first ever start in a Grand Prix. So Cheever takes the win, Katayama second, Bernard is third. Damon Hill will come through in fourth position ahead of Moreno, Rydell, Byrne, Herbert, Winkelhock and Leto. Martini and Pirro, the two Italians, just outside the top 10. A very dramatic race to end things there here at Imola. But it's a victory for Eddie Cheever and the team from Ford Eurobred. So the Honda domination is now well and truly over. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. A very interesting turn of events then here at Imola. It is Cheever that gets the win from Katayama and Bernard. Then Damon Hill and Roberto Moreno in front of Ricard Rydell and Tommy Byrne. Herbert, Winkelhock and Leto in the top 10. The two Italians, Martini and Pirro, just missing out on that top 10. Donnelly is classified 13th despite dropping out on the final lap. Comas brings the Minardi back to 14th place, overtaking both of the AGS cars, who spent the whole race dueling, and it was Aiello who got the job done. Ratzenberger, McNish, Wendlinger, Barbazza, De Cesaris, Tracy, Guerrero, Larini, Capelli and Suzuki all failing to get to the end of the race in a very controversial battle. For Jordan, their chances go up in smoke twice. Leighton House and Eurobred both lost a car, but Suzuki was the fastest man very early on in the battle. So a very interesting turn up for the books as Eurobred and Modena join the regulars Leighton House Honda. Three very excited teams hoping to go for glory in the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola in 1991. So, who's going to bag pole position? Let's find out. Well, it's an all-Williams front row lockout, would you believe? The Porsche-Williams combo has dominated qualifying. Senna and Boutsen on the front row, with the two Brabhams next up of Prost and Hakkinen. Then it is Patrese in the Ligier in fifth position, ahead of Nigel Mansell in his Ferrari. Then Gerhard Berger's McLaren and Michele Alboreto in the Lotus, ahead of his teammate Derek Warwick. Michael Schumacher starting all the way down in P10. No front row speed then for Ferrari. Eddie Irvine and Alessandro Nannini in the second of the Ligier and McLarens. Then Piquet really struggling in the Arrows in front of a Goody Suzuki. Fast speed for the Honda. Alesi in the Tyrrell and Brundle in the Benetton. Then Frentzen and Eddie Cheever in that Ford Eurobred. And then the two Lolas of Mauricio Gugelmin and Stefano Modena. Outside the top 20, Ukyo Katayama is alongside the British driver Mark Blundell. Roberto Guerrero lines up alongside the Mexican Adrian Fernandez. And on the back row of the grid, it's the Modenas of Bernard and Tracy. They may be slow, but they're in the race. So, time to go to battle with the Porsche Williams lineup on the front row of the grid. What a joyous moment that is for Scott Woodwis and the whole of the Porsche Williams team, but Ewan Gale's Brabham duo right up in the hunt, as is Will Knight in the Ligier for Riccardo Patrese. Here we go, the San Marino Grand Prix of 1991 is underway, and it's a cracking start from Mika Häkkinen, the reigning world champion in the Brabham, who has worked his way up to third position and slots in behind Thierry Boutsen. Senna has got the absolute barnstormer, and he's charging away in the Porsche Williams up front. And there's already battles. Straight line speed is very good indeed from that Ilmor engine as much as it is from the Porsche. Yeah, Berger is struggling to make an impression on this opening lap. Mansell's made a terrific start. He's up to fourth. He's got past Alain Prost. But Prost has got him back again on the exit. So Mansell has to slot into P5, having got a good run there on Prost initially. Oh, and Patrese loses ground to Derek Warwick over the top of the crest. So a very exciting initial start then to the Grand Prix. And a sensational battle is in the offing. Now, what's happened to Alessandro Nannini? He's dropped out of the top 10 by the look of it. So this is not good news for the Italian on home soil. McLaren have just suddenly plummeted. They are the championship leaders, don't forget, in the constructors' race. They are having a very awkward time of it here at Imola, compared to what happened just a couple of weeks ago, the Brazilian Grand Prix, when they managed to get the second place finish. But Senna is out in front here in Imola in the Porsche Williams, and it looks good. Mansell trying to close up to the two Brabhams. So Senna, Boutsen, Häkkinen, Prost, Mansell, Warwick, Berger and Patrese in front of Eddie Irvine and Michele Alboreto. So lots of drivers with good potential here to work their way further up the field. And Thierry Boutsen having a shake off Häkkinen. Goodness me. A good race already in prospect then. Now the big question is going to be who's on the one-stop strategy and who's on the two-stop strategy. This is going to get pretty feisty. Senna though, enjoying himself up front. As Frentzen continues in the Tyrrell to try and make up steady progress, but 19th place is not where he wanted to be here in Imola. His teammate Alesi is down in 14th. The Tyrrell charge has not quite been as impressive as first thought. So Senna in front of Boutsen, Häkkinen, Prost, Mansell, Warwick, Berger, Patrese, Irvine and Alboreto, as Blundell is having a battle there with Adrian Fernandez, the Arrows driver, has made his way through. So Blundell, I think Blundell may be in some trouble here, the Benetton driver. So Mark Blundell in the Apple Benetton Porsche. Now that is the customer Porsche engine, of course, that they are running with, because the works deal comes from Porsche Williams, the team actually renaming themselves to Porsche Williams. Häkkinen, side by side with Boutsen. Boutsen is not going to give him the satisfaction. A great run from the Belgian as he holds on to second position for the moment. He's basically playing wingguard for Senna at the moment. Look, Senna's already 3.7 seconds clear. As Michael Schumacher now makes his bid on the inside of Martin Brundle. Ferrari trying to pull level, but Brundle holds on to it. The double winner of the first two races of the season. Michael Schumacher just looking completely off the boil here at Imola. Ferrari just doesn't have the pace it once did. Meanwhile though, the man up front just stretching away and dominating is the Porsche Williams of Ayrton Senna, car number 7. Having a great run. He is really in charge of things up front here, as his teammate Boutsen just holds up the rest of the field. Brundle holds on in front of Schumacher there. Two great drivers continue to battle. Now Bernard and Tracy are having a good battle, but who's the Lola that's behind them? It looks to me like it could be Kujamin. So even at the back of the field we've got a nice tasty battle. Well, if you can't have two AGSs running at the back of the field, you may as well have two Modeners to do the battling instead. And so that is the mantle that Tracy and Bernard have picked up in their first ever Grand Prix as a Modener driver. Paul Tracy's first Grand Prix, I'm fairly sure. Thierry Boutsen though is down to third. Häkkinen's got through. You're not going to hold me up for long. So I'm afraid we missed where that happened, but Häkkinen has now fallen back, and Mansell is trying to take on Alain Prost. So there is the reigning world champion, Mika Häkkinen, in second place. Is now Piquet. Whoa! Piquet tries to have a look at Jean Alesi. That's not going to happen very easily, is it? But Piquet still swarming all over the back. As Thierry Boutsen now has to hold himself stationed there. Alesi trying to hold on in front of Nelson Piquet, and Nelson Piquet looking very frustrated these days in the Arrows BMW. It is a works BMW engine in the back of that car. Oh, Gugelmin in the Lola, very nearly throws it into the back of one of the Moliners. So that could have been a big upset. I'm afraid Mauricio Gugelmin really struggling in that moment. But the Brazilian hoping to make up for some lost ground later on over the course of the race. Getting the MasterCard Lola Ferrari through its paces as it tries to close up on the Lola in front. And there's Riccardo Patrese. Well, he seems to have swapped with his teammate. Patrese made a good initial qualifying, and now Irvine has got past him. And that's going to be the second Brabham getting side by side with Mansell. No, you don't, says Alain Prost. Don't forget they started last year as teammates in Ferrari. Prost defected mid-season. He's joined the Brabham team in the hope that he can help them get further up the field. But I tell you what, they are second and fourth. So his expertise, along with the reigning world champion Mika Hakkinen, definitely coming to fruition. Suzuki. Oh, around the outside goes Alboreto. I was about to say the Suzuki finds he's got the Honda up into the points. Not for long. Alboreto's already got it back. And Lotus now puts their second car into the points. Not a bad charge forward from Lotus then. Early stages, both their cars running top 10. Of course, that is nowhere near as significant as being the top 10 cars across the line at the end of the race. That's the tricky bit. Nelson Piquet struggling in the Arrows. He's being passed and passed and passed. Has Nelson Piquet got a problem in the Adidas Arrows BMW? I would hazard a guess that the three-time world champion having all sorts of difficulties with the Arrows. So he is dropping back quite considerably now. He's outside the top 15. He appears to be trying to make it back to the pits. But there is Ayrton Senna on lap 6 in the Porsche Williams. Flies through Tamburello. There's Prost trying to make his bid on Thierry Boutsen. Can't get through. So still in the 1991 San Marino Grand Prix, it is the Porsche Williams of Ayrton Senna that leads the reigning world champion, the new boy Mika Hakkinen. Still only his second season in Formula 1, would you believe? Alboreto gets his nose cut off there by Riccardo Patrese. So Patrese in the Ligier holds on with his teammate Eddie Irvine, the British driver, having charged his way up to 8th place and having got through. So there's a talent worth looking at. Let's look at the fuel loads. Hakkinen's on a much heavier fuel load than Senna was. Boutsen's on that heavy fuel load too. Prost isn't. So the Brabham needs to get through here, and Mansell is on a fairly light fuel load as well. Warwick is kind of hedging his bets a little bit in the Lotus, as is Berger in the McLaren. Irvine's on a light fuel load. Patrese isn't. That will explain why he's dropping back. Alboreto in the Lotus trying to have a go at him. He won't make that move, I'm afraid. Suzuki just outside the top 10. Schumacher and Brundle on heavier fuel loads. That would explain a lot. And there's Alessandro Nannini, who is having, there's only one way of putting it, a rather lackluster display at the moment as he deals away with Nelson Piquet. But Senna just keeping himself to himself up front. He has stretched that gap over Hakkinen to 9.7 seconds, but then he is on a lighter fuel load than Mika Hakkinen, so this isn't over yet. The Brabhams definitely have a chance to creep back into contention here, but Boutsen is actually playing a very important role here for the Williams team, keeping Prost at bay for as long as possible. Hakkinen's got through, but it's important to try and keep Prost at bay as long as possible as far as battling for the victory is concerned. So there is Ayrton Senna climbing up the hill on lap 7 of this San Marino Grand Prix of 1991 in the Porsche Williams, and having a very strong run of it up in front. Senna working his craft in the lead. Hakkinen in second place. 2 world champions up front. And Thierry Boutsen doing everything he can to keep Alain Prost behind him. Here is Prost making his bid to get through. Alain Prost, the 3-time world champion. Champion in 85, 86, and of course controversially in 89. 3 times a world champion. Hoping to add another title before he hangs up his helmet. He wants to be equal to nobody really in terms of his performance. He says he wants to win 1 more title. He's still motivated to get the job done for a 4th time. So this is a really tricky situation for the team, as Brabham continues to charge after. What if Brabham could get the win here? That really would rejuvenate them after a tricky start to the season. There is Fernandez in the second of the Arrows cars. The Mexican doing as much hard work out there as he possibly can. And he's way further forward. The race leader is the Porsche Williams of the Brazilian Ayrton Senna, world champion in 1988. PK, as he's big to go through here. Thierry Boutsen locks up. This is how hard he's working to keep Prost behind. Gap has opened up front between Senna and Hakkinen in 10 seconds, and we haven't even completed 10 laps yet. So Alain Prost really desperately needs to get past the Belgian, in the hope that this is going to turn into a race victory for the Brabham team. And certainly, from their point of view, it's going to be tricky to beat the Porsche Williams combo of Senna and Boutsen. Ayrton Senna goes into lap number 9. No problems at all for the Brazilian. Just keep it to what he can manage. PK now making his bid on the Ford Eurobrun of Eddie Cheever. But he can't overtake. And Nannini is behind him as well. PK and Nannini having a horrendous race by their standards. There is Martin Brundle just locking it up in the final couple of chicanes. So a bit of a moment there for Martin Brundle in the Apple Benetton Porsche. Hoping to keep it going as long as possible. Lap 9 for him at the moment. Brundle really wanting to get that Benetton up into the points. With this Porsche engine, whilst obviously Williams are reaping the benefits of it, the customer Porsche engine is still very much in the back of that Benetton. They still have some development work on it to do by the look of it. But of course, it's not just about the straight line speed, it's also about getting to the end of races. If those Benettons can get to the end while others can't, they'll still score some decent championship points. Good run this for Mukuru Suzuki after the problems in pre-qualifying. He still has the speed to run very strongly at the front, so he's hoping to turn this into at least a championship point for the Honda Works team. Honda, of course, having split with Williams years ago and still working closely with McLaren. There's all sorts of rumours flying around as to what the fate of the Honda Works project is going to be, though. Will they still supply to teams like McLaren, or will they want to overtake them and then obviously go and do their own thing, because they come here to win? And supplying a team like McLaren is obviously good in terms of the development of a Honda engine, but it's also slightly counterintuitive as they want to win races themselves. So Katayama in the second of the Hondas. They're in 14th, so obviously they have to hold back a little bit in pre-qualifying because they've obviously got a good car underneath them and they want to run strongly in the races. So Michael Schumacher is in the pits. So Schumacher is in pit lane. What has happened to the Ferrari? So Schumacher has come into the pits, and it's because he's got a throttle problem. So Michael Schumacher, I'm afraid, the double race winner in 1991 already, is not going to win the San Marino Grand Prix. He's already hit trouble. So problems, I'm afraid, for Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari. He is not going any further. Oh, and there's problems further back. There's a car smoking in the background. So somebody else is in trouble. It's Fernandez. It is the Arrows of Fernandez. So I'm afraid Mexico's Adrian Fernandez is going to park the Arrows at Tosa. So that is game over for the Mexican. Adrian Fernandez retires then from the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola. Meanwhile, the Ligier still running strong in the top 10 at the moment. The British driver going very well in the Ligier as Ayrton Senna comes into the pits from the lead. Now that's only on lap 11. So that shows you how fast Senna was pushing. He was on a very aggressive strategy. So Senna wanting to put out as much of a gap as humanly possible in the Porsche Williams. And the big question is going to be, where will he get out in relation to his opposition? Hakkinen goes through to the lead, Boutsen to second, Mansell to third, Warwick to fourth. In comes Prost. So Prost comes into the pits as well. So again, clearly, Brabham trying to pick one up on their opponents here. As Alain Prost in the Brabham makes the pit stop. Whoa! Very nearly clips one of the mechanics in the Lotus team there. That was very tight for Prost. As he gets back out onto the circuit. Whoa! He nearly collides with one of the Ford Eurobruns. That is Roberto Guerrero. So we're going to need to ride on board with the Colombian just to see how close it got. Because that is about as close as it gets without being silly there for Roberto Guerrero. Prost comes out of the pits. Oh, just chops across on the Colombian. Now that's going to be hard to tell, really, whether that is one of those moments where two cars just happen to meet on the same bit of racetrack at the same time by accident. Or was that Prost getting a little bit heavy-handed in his bid to keep his car in a competitive position? We'll have to find out later, I guess. But it's now Mika Häkkinen who leads the race, with Senna coming in early. Because he's coming early, he's not going to stay out in the lead for long, because Häkkinen is obviously going to be coming into the pits fairly soon himself. So there's still a lot of work to do in this Grand Prix, that is for certain. So it's obviously going to be a bit of a tricky one for Senna to hold on to, but there's Mansell in the Ferrari, third position. He's had so much bad luck of late as Nigel Mansell, but he certainly has the pace and the ability to win a World Championship. He has still yet to do so, but Ferrari absolutely rely upon this man. They say he is absolutely il leone, and very popular with the Ferrari fans is Nigel Mansell. He's got that fighting spirit that they love within the Ferrari team. So Piquet is trying to pick his way through, and he's coming into the pits, and he follows the Ford Eurobrenin of Chiva. Suzuki, I believe, is coming into the pits as well. So quite a few of those drivers hunting down those final few points positions, all in the mix together, in the hope that this is going to turn into a very solid situation out front. So Häkkinen, Boutsen, Mansell, Warwick, Berger, and then the former race leader Ayrton Senna, who's obviously made a pit stop. But Thierry Boutsen working his way through now. That's Prost having rejoined, of course. Rundle. Careful, Martin. Just locks up a little bit through the S's there at the bottom of the hill. And that could have easily ended up spitting that car into the Armco and game over. And Jean Alesi behind him in the Tyrrell can clearly sense that Martin Brundle is pushing hard. Jean Alesi, who actually gave the Tyrrell team a victory or two last year, showing just how strong he can be as a French driver. Second in the championship last year, Jean Alesi. A really difficult start to 1991, though. Having his own battle as the Lotus driver, having made his pit stop, now finds himself dueling there with Mark Blundell. And that is Alesi. Oh, Jean Alesi just locking up in the final chicane in the Red Bull Tyrrell Honda. Be very careful about how he pushes that, because obviously he can't afford to mess up anything at this stage of the race, because he's got a long way still to go. And obviously, with there being so much at stake, he doesn't really want to jeopardise a chance to run at the front. But here's the reigning world champion, Mika Häkkinen, up front. As Roberto Guerrero goes wheel to wheel with Stefano Modena in the Lola. So the Lola Ferrari in front, with its backing from the financial giants MasterCard, doing a fantastic job there. There is Senna, who's only about 8 seconds behind Häkkinen in the lead of the race. That's how big a gap Senna pulled in the early phases. This is really, really strong from the Brazilian. It looks like he's got a good race strategy under his belt. Warwick's in trouble! Warwick's in trouble! Warwick is slowing. So Derek Warwick in the Lotus appears to be heading for pit lane. He's got a throttle issue. So he will follow the British driver Nigel Mansell into the pits. This is not on schedule for Warwick, although looking at his fuel level, he probably would have pitted in a lap or two anyway, but that's definitely cost him some track positions. So Derek Warwick definitely not where he wanted to be. That's a bit of a headache for team principal Ryan Ferris of the Lotus team. 0.6 seconds, they turn it into a fairly scheduled pit stop. They managed to reset everything, but that's definitely some places lost as Prost goes wheel to wheel here with Heitald Frentzen in the second of the Tyrrells. So Frentzen doing his best to make an impression as he duels away, and there is Thierry Boutsen, still second in the Williams. So the team still mixing it up at the front as Warwick now gets back into the hunt, and round the outside of Stefano Modena from Derek Warwick. A fighting spirit then from the Lotus. He gets back into a decent run. As now we look at the McLaren of Gerhard Berger briefly. Chiva dueling wheel to wheel though with Nannini. That is not where the other McLaren wanted to be. Nannini is having an absolute nightmare here. So this has definitely not gone according to plan. But meanwhile, Berger is having a duel here with Ayrton Senna. Gerhard Berger in the McLaren has been caught by his former teammate. And the Brazilian doing a fair job of trying to come around the outside of Gerhard Berger. Oh, don't rush it. Senna knows that Berger isn't going to give him too much space. These two get on quite well together. But Senna knows if he's going to overtake Berger, he's really going to have to work for it, and he storms through on the run to Tosa. Great overtake from Ayrton Senna, the Brazilian, who charges his way through, the world champion of 1988, who is hoping to add a second world title to his tally at some stage in his career. A lot of people have said this man could go on to win multiple world titles. Certainly looking strong at the moment. Lap 15, and this man, who won last year's World Championship as a rookie, Mika Häkkinen, came into the Brabham team as a bit of an unknown. He showed everybody he has just got so much speed and so much strength. It was a crazy year in 1990. So many people had the chance to win races. So Senna now up to third, trying to close in on his teammate Thierry Boutsen, who I imagine is not going to give him too much of a fight. Nigel Mansell trying to pass Katayama in the Honda. And that is actually a real headache for him here. So he's struggling to put this all together. The competitors are still trying to make good use of these very important laps before their first pit stop. Quite a few of them haven't made the pit stop yet, don't forget. So there's still quite a bit to do, still quite a lot to talk about before this checkered flag falls for good. Piquet still running a very solid race for the moment, although that car is really struggling. The BMW engine is very much off the pace. So we're going to have a fascinating dynamic to discuss, but Piquet still really working hard here to try and get that arrows into the points. As Thierry Boutsen in the Williams runs in P2. And there is Mansell dueling still with Katayama. Can he get through up over the top of the crest? Well, he doesn't want to take the risk, does he? And that's going to put Alain Prost right behind him. Meanwhile, though, this man continues out in front. The world champion, Mika Häkkinen from Finland. Oh, and there's a car in trouble up front. That's the other arrows. That is Piquet. Piquet is in trouble. So it looks as though the Arrows BMWs have unfortunately come to a premature halt. Big disaster for them then. That has not gone well at all for Nelson Piquet. As Berger makes his pit stop, Nelson Piquet is going to drop out of the race imminently. And that's both Arrows cars failing to make the finish then. As Ayrton Senna just hunts down his teammate. There is the confirmation. Nelson Piquet parks the Arrows BMW only a few corners further along than where his teammate Fernandez did, but that is not the point. Nelson Piquet retires again here at Imola. That is not in the script at all. So bitter disappointment then for Nelson Piquet, as the Brazilian three-time world champion will walk away from his car. Now what's going on here? Oh, that is Alain Prost going airborne! That is Alain Prost going airborne. Now what happened there? He was going past the pits. So Alain Prost in the Brabham is about to have a big incident. Now what happened? We're going to ride on board with Mansell's car. And it's the McLaren that gets out of the pits directly in front of Alain Prost. So it's Berger. It's Berger coming out of the pits. But it seems that Prost, I don't know whether Prost was heavy-handed in the incident before earlier on, but certainly you could see Prost has nowhere to go but into Berger. Now, was that Prost failing to react, or was Berger a bit forceful? Whatever happens, it doesn't matter, because Alain Prost has got damage to the front end of the car, and it's clear that he will not be taking the he'll not be taking a challenge for the victory this time. So a big disaster. And I'm afraid that's all gone horribly wrong for Alain Prost in the Brabham. So he's now going to have to scamper back to the pits and get that front nose cone replaced, as Eddie Irvine goes through into 9th place in the Ligier. So points looking likely. Well, there's Eddie Cheever, the American, still driving the pace of the Ford Eurobron as far forward as it can go. in the hope that it's going to turn into a very solid effort for the team. But obviously this is still very early days for the Ford European project. They are not under any illusions that this is going to be a long-term journey for the squad, a long-term program, and certainly a works entry for Ford is very exciting. They've obviously been supplying engines for a long, long time now in the sport, all the way back to 1967. Katayama comes into the pits from what was 8th position. That promotes Irvine, Warwick and Frentzen to the points for the time being. Hakkinen and Boutsen come... Oh, that's Suzuki! Suzuki has spun the car. So Suzuki has spun the Honda out of the final corner there. And that has thrown away any chance of a point for the Honda team for the moment. Well, that's really a big mistake from Aguri Suzuki, who's now got to sit there and wait for an opening to come through and get the job done. So, big disaster then from Suzuki, and that's really going to hamper his chances. Meanwhile, the Williams pair are just getting on with it in 2nd and 3rd place. There is Senna, behind his teammate Boutsen, who locks up. Thierry Boutsen almost trips his teammate up there. Now surely Boutsen is not going to hold up Ayrton Senna for long. He needs to obviously work his way through. But Senna doesn't want to trip over his teammate. He doesn't want to throw away the chance of a victory here. So big drama as the contenders continue. But Senna just biding his time, just keeping himself out of harm's way here. Just trying to bring the car home in a solid position. But there could be a win on the horizon as Senna goes for his teammate Boutsen. Boutsen is not getting out of the way. Now Boutsen clearly wants to win this Grand Prix just as much as his teammate does. What other reason could he have for holding his teammate up there? Surely that's counterproductive as Mansell makes the bid on a Lacey, and I think he got through. Certainly showing that he's in front of Lacey. There is the Benetton having his moment. Mark Blundell still having a very exciting time of it there, trying to close up on Michael Schumacher, the man who won both of the season openers. Well, this is a very different car that we are seeing in operation here, isn't it? A very different story. Because Michael Schumacher just doesn't seem to have any pace. And the Ferrari is well off the boil compared to where it was in the first and second races of the year. Alesi now dueling away with Berger. Alesi is not going to be quite so easily thrown off the road in the same way that Prost was, as far as the Brabham team will feel and be concerned. So, fascinating stuff as Berger climbing over the back of Sean Alesi. He's practically climbing over the back of his car in order to try and get through. And as we go into lap 20, Berger is really trying to hustle his way past the Tyrrell. This is not easy at all. But Alesi is perfectly entitled to run with Berger that closely. It was never going to be an easy challenge, that is for sure. As Ukyo Katayama trying to salvage a point or two from this race after Aguri Suzuki has thrown away what would almost certainly have been a chance of the points. And that's Paul Tracy. So Paul Tracy, I'm afraid, appears to be out of this race now as well. And that's what happened. So the Canadian just skated off the road with mechanical problems already very much prominent for Paul Tracy, and I'm afraid it's game over. Senna approaches the scene, having got past Boutsen. We didn't see what happened, but Senna has got through. So Boutsen, I think, finally getting the call there from Frank Williams and Scott Woodwiss in charge of the team to move out of the way. Now here's Mika Hakkinen, who was on a heavy fuel load, don't forget. So Senna is only 4.5 seconds back from him. Well, this is a really interesting run so far. And the contenders are still having a good run of it. That's Prost, having recovered from his earlier misdemeanor, now tripping over a Lola nearly. As Mika Hakkinen leads this race. There's Nannini, almost tripping over the Benetton of Mark Blundell. What on earth has happened to Alessandro Nannini in this race in the McLaren Honda? He just hasn't had any pace at all. As Frentzen there continues in the Tyrrell. dueling away with Michele Alboreto in the Lotus. Meanwhile, Senna, now that he's got no teammate in front of him, he can start to eat into the cushion. Frentzen beats Alboreto. There's Chiba, still running a solid effort in the Ford Eurobrun. Out of the final turn and onto the home stretch. A very good race of it so far. As the battle continues to rage here. But obviously there is always going to be an intriguing contest between our competitors up at the sharp end of the field. Modena now getting his run on the Eurobrun and gets through. Great racing in the midfield, but Prost is about to close up on all of these cars to try and make his own bid. So Prost, needing to get back up to the top 10 as quickly as possible, he's going to have the race from hell here, trying to overtake as many cars as he possibly can. But he's clearly not finding it easy. Here's Boutsen, still running a solid third for the Porsche Williams team, who are second and third at the moment. But don't forget that Mika Häkkinen is only on a one-stop strategy by the look of it. So that heavy Brabham is just trying to go the distance as much as humanly possible. So Häkkinen, Senna, Boutsen, Patrese and Mansell. That's the top 5 at the moment. Very impressive from Ligier. They find themselves right up in 4th position. They are the best of the rest after the Brabham and Williams battle. So Riccardo Patrese in the Ligier, yes, he's got a one-stop strategy to deal with, but he's obviously trying to take as much out of this race as he possibly can, and he's looking fairly competitive. Berger has crept up to P6, so we know the McLaren is still relatively fast after its pit stop. Mansell has pitted as well. So the Ferrari and the McLaren still have reasonable pace, but it's just that Williams and Brabham have definitely caught up a bit. So we could well have 4 cars battling for this 1991 World Championship title, which is exactly what we were hoping for. The Ferrari, the McLaren, the Williams and the Brabham. 4 of the biggest teams in history. Hammer and tongs. There's Mika Häkkinen. You have to say full credit to Mika and Alain Prost at the bottom end of last year, and their team principal Ewan Gale were able to resuscitate Brabham. They went bust, of course, at one point. They had to sit out a year of competition, and their renaissance has been nothing short of spectacular. Great to see the Brabham team back where they belong at the front. Bit of a mistake there from one of the loaders, and this is going to be the chance for Eddie Chiba, and he knows it. Ford Eurobrun trying to get past Stefano Modena. Modena's not going to make that one easy, and he does not let the Ford Eurobrun get by. There's Eric Bernard in the Modena Lamborghini. And is that Prost having made up another place? It is indeed. So Prost has actually managed to get past the 2 cars in that mix. He's got past one of the Lolas as well as one of the Ford Eurobruns. A very solid start. There's Thierry Boutsen, now 4 seconds back nearly from his teammate. That's how much he was holding Senna up on the heavier fuel load, the older tyres I should say. Now there's a Lacey, currently having a nice little battle with Derek Warwick. Lotus versus Tyrrell, 2 big names from the past. Still they continue to duel forward. Now here's Thierry Boutsen, 3rd position at the moment from the Williams contender, as Warwick continues to duel with Jean Alesi, 8th position, currently being contested between these 2 mighty young chargers. There's the Porsche Williams of Ayrton Senna, 2nd place for him at the moment, on lap 24 out of 61, so he's just gone past 1/3's distance. And there is Martin Brundle trying to take on the German talent in the Tyrrell, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, with behind them Michael Schumacher. Who would have thought that the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher that won the first 2 races of the year would be sat behind the Benetton on merit? How things have changed from one race to the next. That is the way things currently work in the Grand Prix World Championship. And that's Prost! That is Prost! Game over! Alain Prost, mechanical failure in the Brabham, and I'm afraid that's it. Job done. Well, I'm afraid the 3-time world champion is going no further in the San Marino Grand Prix. And that's going to be a very, very angry Alain Prost getting out of the car. So, very treacherous situation for the Frenchman. That's not what he wanted, especially as his great rival and opponent, Ayrton Senna, is out there loving it. In second position, closing up on Häkkinen to the tune of 2.1 seconds deficit. Further back, this is still Tyrrell versus Benetton. This is now Heinz-Harald Frentzen under massive intensity from Brundle. Brundle trying to make the overtaking move. But it isn't happening anytime soon. There is Brundle. Still trying to look for that elusive gap to get past in the Tyrrell. The man in front of him, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, in the Red Bull with its Honda engine, the Red Bull Tyrrell, I should say. Across the start-finish line and up through to the first corner once more. Schumacher is just trying to stay with them at the moment. He just can't even seem to get a toe in that Ferrari. I'm not sure what on earth they've done with that car, but certainly Schumacher looking very under the weather here. Now this is Mika Häkkinen about to lap one of the Hondas. He's out in the tail end of the field. It's Suzuki. I think Häkkinen just went into the pits. So Häkkinen has made the pit stop, I do believe. Yes, indeed he has. So Senna takes the lead. So Ayrton Senna takes the lead as Mika Häkkinen goes into the pits then. And that is on schedule. So Häkkinen did not quite go to half distance. So he must be he must be fueling up incredibly heavily this time. But the big moment, of course, comes for Ayrton Senna. Oh, Nigel Mansell blocking up there in the chicane. So through the Variante Bassa, and Nigel Mansell really struggling to get the car turned in at the Ferrari team. But he holds on to 5th position for the moment. Häkkinen, by the way, has rejoined in 4th position, the sole remaining Brabham. Well, how about this for a top 3? Senna and Boutsen, the Porsche Williams that were really struggling in the Americas. Here they are in 1st and 2nd place now. 3rd is Riccardo Patrese in the Ligier. So Alessandro Nannini just overcooks it a little bit in the final chicane. It still keeps it on the road as Frentzen comes into the pits as well. So Nannini inherits 13th from him. And Frentzen will actually drop outside of the leading part of the table as Katayama and Blundell will inherit his positions for the moment. Still a long way to go though. We're on that 26 out of 61, so we've still got a little bit more to play out here as Eric Bernard in the Modena Lamborghini has come into the pits, and that's Gugelmin trying to storm up the inside of Eddie Cheever, whose teammate there is Roberto Guerrero. And Thierry Boutsen in the Williams is now in pit road, so just a lap after Häkkinen. And that's going to drop Boutsen, I think, to 4th position behind Häkkinen in the Brabham. And Patrese in the Ligier, there he goes past the pits. Riccardo Patrese has now found himself in 2nd position. So the Italian still clearly a very valuable asset to the Ligier team. And Eddie Irvine running a very solid race as well in 7th position. There is Häkkinen, 3rd. Boutsen is rejoining 4th in front of Mansell. Now that's quite crucial as far as the strategy is concerned. That's going to help out the Porsche Williams team to keep him in front of Mansell. As into the pits comes Jean Alesi in the Red Bull Tyrrell. So Jean Alesi is now in pit road as well. Looking down, that is Eric Bernard, the Frenchman in the Modena Lamborghini. And then is Patrese. Very solid race so far from the Italian. The Ligier driver doing very well. Look at this train. Boutsen, Berger, Mansell. Williams, McLaren, Ferrari. And this is for 4th position. Boutsen obviously trying to get these tyres up to temperature, but he's also got a heavier fuel load than both men behind him, because he's going to go to the end of the Grand Prix. Berger and Mansell are going to stop one more time, so they need to get past Boutsen pretty darn quickly as Riccardo Patrese comes into the pits for his pit stop. The Ligier driver having a very solid run of it. He's one of the most experienced drivers in Formula 1 racing at the moment. Boutsen tries to hang on to this with the final chicane. I thought for a moment Mansell had dived for the pits there, but Patrese is the one that obviously has dived for the pits. Boutsen up to 3rd, Berger up to 4th, Mansell up to 5th, Irvine up to 6th in the Ligier. Keep an eye on Irvine. Irvine's doing a very good job indeed there in the Ligier. He was initially touted by... Hang on, is that Berger getting past Boutsen? I think Berger was making the bid there on Thierry Boutsen as Alessandro Nannini having... It's another long day at the office. Well, certainly Boutsen had Berger putting him under pressure, but I don't think Berger's actually made the overtake stick. I was going to say that Irvine was actually headhunted by the Ligier team after initially signing a testing deal with Jordan. And they settled the dispute very quickly between the two parties. The Irvine getting the chance to race in 1991 with the Ligier team as teammate to Riccardo Patrese, up and over the top of the hill. And there is Martin Brundle, just taking it in his stride. The Benetton team have not exactly started in the best way possible yet. Still got some work to do, but Martin Brundle and Mark Blundell, this very talented team of Brits, just hoping to continue making progress. But there is Thierry Boutsen in front of Gerhard Berger in the McLaren. Berger, obviously knowing that there's still a potential chance of a victory in this one. Yes, Senna may have the pace, but you never know what's going to happen to him later on. But Berger wants to take on Thierry Boutsen here and wants to go for the win. But can the McLaren stand to get close enough to Thierry Boutsen? Because Boutsen obviously has got fresher tyres, but is on a heavier fuel load than Berger currently is. Berger needing to stop again later. There's the confirmation of the retirements, just Prost, Tracy, Piquet and Fernandez. So only 4 retirements, but incredibly 6 World Championship titles between them all. Willie Suzuki dropping down through the bottom end of the circuit. Trying to make their way running through very calmly, very carefully. Suzuki's already made one big mistake in his Grand Prix and spun off, rejoining in front of Blundell, Guerrero and Bernard. But everybody else swept through. Honda driver, unfortunately throwing away a decent chance of a points finish there. Just got to hope his teammate Katayama's going to get into the points instead, as Berger still cannot find a way through past Thierry Boutsen. The Belgian driver really earning his stripes today. There was some doubt about his motivation going into the American rounds because he was so far off the pace compared to Ayrton Senna. But they've clearly been able to upgrade the car not just to Ayrton's liking but to Thierry's as well. That's a crucial changeover for the Williams team. Senna is still a good, well, very nearly, well, he is over half a minute clear of his teammate Thierry Boutsen. As we watch Roberto Guerrero, the Colombian, in the Ford Eurobrun. Still going strong, still looking good as we approach the half-distance mark in this race. So it's definitely going very well indeed if you are Williams or Brabham. Even though Alain Prost is out of the race, Häkkinen still has a chance to win the Grand Prix here. But Ayrton Senna just keeping it manageable out in front. The Williams Porsche going very well indeed in the lead of the San Marino Grand Prix of 1991. And in the capable hands of Ayrton Senna, no issue. Up towards Tamburello. One of the Tyrrells in front of him, that is Matteo Frentzen, who was one of the one-stoppers. So Senna will lap Frentzen, but then of course he'll make a pit stop later in the race as Boutsen drops it down the hill rather forcefully. And Roberto Guerrero continues. Is that somebody coming into the pits? It is indeed, it's Mark Blundell. So Blundell in the Benetton, I'm afraid, has come into the pits. Katayama, meanwhile, in the Honda, just still piling it on. Currently running in 13th. And of course, Katayama needs to make up 3 more places if he wants to be in the points. But it's all very, very competitive up at the front. Mika Häkkinen in the Brabham, 2nd position. The reigning world champion. Who would have thought that this incredibly talented young Finn would come into Grand Prix racing in his very first season of competition and emerge as the world champion. Mark Blundell, having recovered from his pit stop, now finds himself in 22nd position, which is dead last, I'm afraid to say. So Benetton still working its way around the course as competitively as it possibly can be, still trying to make up as much progress as possible. Senna, Häkkinen, Boutsen, Berger and Mansell. Still working their way through. There is Michele Alboreto, one of the 2 Lotus cars still in the points. Warwick and Alboreto looking to come through with a decent collection of points on the board as well. But obviously it was always going to be fairly intensive between them. Top 10 drivers have scored points ever since 1990, but even at the early stage of 1991 there is a call for more points to be dished dished out to the drivers at the top end of the race results. It's currently 15, 12, 10. But there's suggestions that there needs to be a bigger points gap, very similar to what happens in the world of IndyCar currently. Senna, MasterCard Lola driver Stefano Modena. No major fight put up there by Modena, just gets out of the way in the MasterCard Lola Ferrari. Lets Ayrton Senna come by without hesitation or argument. Katayama still doing a fair job in the Honda, trying to make up as much ground as possible to get himself into the points. He's only got Nannini, Irvine and then Schumacher. And Senna's in! Senna's in! So that was a lot earlier than I thought it was going to be for Ayrton Senna. Is he on a 3-stop strategy? So Senna just beyond half distance. Is Ayrton Senna doing a 3-stop strategy? It's clearly working for the Brazilian at the moment. Suzuki tries to take on the European again. But when did Senna pit in last time? It was lap 11 and now he's pitted in on lap 32. So that suggests to me that Senna is not going for a 1-stopper or a 2-stopper. He's actually going for a 3-stop strategy. But he's clearly got good speed and he's actually rejoined in front of Häkkinen. So he's pulled out enough of a gap that even despite the pit stop, he is back out in the lead again. So Senna doing a fine job. No major concerns. There is Häkkinen, and up over the top of the hill already has gone the Brazilian up front. So no major concerns. No need to break a sweat then for the world champion from 1988. Certainly for Mika Häkkinen. He's the one who's having to play chase at the moment. The world champion from 1990. Trying to make up a bit more pace. There's the Porsche Williams of Thierry Boutsen. So Thierry Boutsen having a fairly steady run. Third position, but behind him is Gerhard Berger. And it looks as though those two are about to renew their battle once more. They've already given us quite a lot of entertainment and excitement so far. Very impressive to see. Oh, that's Modena. Modena is slowing. Stefano Modena, I'm afraid, is the first of the Lolas to fall by the wayside. So very unfortunate for the MasterCard Lola Ferrari of Stefano Modena. Gearbox failure by the look of it. So that is Stefano Modena in the MasterCard Lola out of this race. It's very unfortunate for team manager Tom Cairns. Obviously working in close quarters with Eric Broadley and the Lola operation. And it's game over for Stefano Modena. The Italian will not score points on home soil. John Alesi, though, is trying to close up on Ukyo Katayama as the Japanese driver's teammate Aguri Suzuki, we just saw charging towards the Tosa hairpin, having another solid battle. Great racing all the way through the field here at Imola. We're on lap 34 out of 61. We're beyond half distance now of the San Marino Grand Prix of 1991. And this man, Ayrton Senna, in the Williams, is just taking it nicely in his stride. No problems whatsoever. But the Porsche Williams team have been here before. They had some hiccups in America. They had some dramas last time out in Brazil. Michael Schumacher, though, is staying patient and getting himself back into the points now in 8th position. But this is a shadow of the car that took victory in the last 2 races of the year. They dominated in Cleveland in the end, and they managed to pick up the victory in Brazil. Oh, Eric Bernard is out of the race. So Bernard is out of the race, and so, well, the marshals are actually having to move Modena's car back by the look of it. But Bernard has pulled the Modena Lamborghini out of the race quite close by as well. And into the pits comes Warwick and Patrese. So that's going to promote... into the pits comes Warwick and Mansell. Mansell has come into the pits in the Ferrari. So Mansell should leave the pits in front of the Lotus of Derek Warwick. And now Mansell is getting himself out of the pits again. So Senna leads Häkkinen by 7 seconds. Boutsen is 3rd, Patrese is 4th, Alboreto is now up to 5th in the Lotus. Then Schumacher in the leading Ferrari, so he's got back ahead of Mansell. Berger is 7th, Mansell is in 8th, 9th place for Eddie Irvine in the Ligier, and 10th place for Derek Warwick in the Lotus. And just 1 point behind him, 1 place behind him now I should say, sorry, is Ukyo Katayama in the leading of the 2 Honda cars. quite a tough weekend for his teammate Aguri Suzuki. Fastest in the pre-qualifying race, pole position denied by Eddie Cheever, and then a mechanical failure in the first 4 laps of racing in the pre-qualifier. Suzuki is quite lucky to be in the San Marino Grand Prix, and then unfortunately he threw it away, a chance of a point earlier in the race when he spun in the final bend. Back on board with Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham. 1990 world champion. A shock. An absolute shock, but what a story it was for the fit. Now what are the marshals doing with Modena's Lola? They're having to continuously move it back out of position by the look of it. Very strange, very bizarre. Michael Schumacher, though, is in the pits as his teammate Nigel Mansell goes past the pits and has moved up positions as a result. Nigel Mansell still looking for that elusive championship title. I think that Lola is actually causing a bit of a headache for the officials because it's actually in a fairly dangerous position. The marshals could really do with getting the crane to that part of the circuit and maneuvering it out of the way, but there are no cranes at that particular point of the course. So Schumacher has come out of the pits in front of Brundle, so he's actually jumped the Benetton in the pit stops. Very important. So Mika Hakkinen, 9 seconds back from Ayrton Senna. The 1988 world champion is being hunted down by the 1990 world champion, with the only other drivers in this field to have become a world champion already out of the race. So now it's all going to come down to how Mika Hakkinen can stay with Ayrton Senna. But the 2 world champions... Oh, that's Irvine! Irvine is going to pull out of the race here. That is bitter disappointment for Eddie Irvine and the Ligier crew. But that car is smoking badly. So I'm afraid Irvine's brilliant race, and it has been a brilliant race right from the outset, he's not going any further. You've got to feel for Eddie Irvine here. So he's going to drop out. Big smoke coming off the back of the car. Warwick is promoted into 7th position. His teammate Alboreto is going to move up into 8th. Alesi in the Tyrrell will move up into 10th. Schumacher in the Ferrari. Alesi is going to be promoted to 9th, I should say, and then Schumacher will be promoted to 10th place and the final point. But there is Eddie Irvine. The car is slowing. It's been a great drive from the Brit from Northern Ireland, but I'm afraid he doesn't really get what he deserves there. Eddie Irvine, the car's slowing and the Ligier is out. Very unfortunate indeed. What a great drive. Suspended. Oh, and Derek Warwick in the Lotus, overcooking it there down at the bottom of the hill. He was quite lucky to keep that one on the road, actually, as Irvine's car is now manoeuvred out of the way. So we're just going to see the replay of Irvine retiring from the race. There it is indeed. So Eddie Irvine, sadly, out of the San Marino Grand Prix. There's a Kukatiyama. Thierry Boutsen in the Williams. Still looking good for a double podium, the Williams team. So this is going to be a tricky one. Up the top of the hill for Ukyo Katayama. The Japanese driver still trying to get the Honda into the points. But this is not easy. Senna leads the way. 11 seconds in front of Mika Hakkinen. Thierry Boutsen, Riccardo Patrese, Gerhard Berger and Nigel Mansell. So here is the 1990 world champion, Mika Hakkinen. Oh, Senna nearly tripping over the Honda. That really would have caused a problem for the Porsche Williams. Ayrton Senna, captained by the Porsche Williams charge. There's his teammate Thierry Boutsen running in 3rd. And Scott Woodward, team principal, alongside the great Frank Williams, making the decisions within that team. And what an incredible performance it has turned out to be so far for the Williams team. And there is Martin Brundle, who's only 3.6 seconds back from Schumacher. Points might still be on the table for Benetton. 19 cars still running out of the 26 that started. We've lost both of the Arrows cars. We've lost one of the Modeners as Michael Schumacher makes his bid. Can't get through on Alesi. Ooh, but the 22-year-old German, who won both the American and Brazilian Grand Prix this year, suddenly finds himself scrabbling for the final couple of points. This is not where he wanted to be at all. As we watch Gerhard Berger in the BK McLaren. And through goes Gerhard Berger. very solid effort so far. They're not quite on the same speed that they were. Alessandro Nannini is way down in 13th. I think he's going to have quite the explanation to give to team boss Dave Goddard in the McLaren squad. Nannini is very much off the pace this time here in Imola, on home turf as well. Not really what McLaren were hoping to see from him. So Senna leads Hakkinen, Boutsen, Patrese, Berger, and Nigel Mansell. We're on lap 39. There's Jean Alesi, still dueling with Michael Schumacher. Two drivers who could change the face of Grand Prix racing in the future. And certainly having a great duel for us here on the race circuit as we join Alesi the wrong mode. We seem just to go to Senna. But Nannini is working hard here to try and get back on terms with Frentzen. Alessandro Nannini in the McLaren, hoping to make up for some of the time lost earlier on in the weekend, but this is definitely not the Alessandro Nannini he would have wanted to show us. Alesi locks up big time. Really can start to feel the pressure that he is being placed under by Michael Schumacher. A two-time winner. Schumacher's going to try and make the bid up to the chicane. Can he get through the Variante Alta? No, he cannot. Oh, Alesi holds on, but then Schumacher's going to come back at him one more time. And this battle is bringing Martin Brundle into contention. So there's no change. Alesi stays in for the Schumacher. Brundle is suddenly all over the back of him though. So now Brundle has a chance to make this come his way. This is a fascinating duel for the final couple of points finishes in this race as well. But this is the man who won both the American and Brazilian Grand Prix. And Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari is just nowhere today. I mean, it's great news for everybody else who were kind of worried that he was just going to run away and disappear, as Senna nearly trips over Nannini. Oh, that's an embarrassing moment for the McLaren team. The team that leads the Constructors' Championship, completely outclassed and outpaced so far by the Porsche Williams team. Hakkinen, still second place as Mansell works his way through in the Ferrari behind Gerhard Berger's McLaren. Not a lot between them. He knows that the car in front of him up the road is the McLaren of Gerhard Berger. He knows he's obviously got to work very hard to try and catch him up again. But now, up towards the Variante Massa. The right into the refinery. But Thierry Boutsen in the Williams looking good to score points, which is almost unthinkable after the first two races, the way they played out for him, as Frentzen gets out of the way and lets Ayrton Senna, the race leader, go through. Frentzen down to 12th place. And Nannini is there just behind him, and then behind him is Ukyo Katayama. Alesi still dueling with Schumacher, and Schumacher still giving him a big headache, as Gerhard Berger continues on his way in 5th position in the McLaren at the moment. Quite a comfortable race season so far for the Austrian, who was pretty much hoping to go for the championship this year. He hasn't really been given the opportunity to get his first win. He's certainly been there or thereabouts. He had problems in Brazil. He was fairly close on pace in America, but it just didn't really come to anything. And so far, so good for Mika Hakkinen, 2nd place. Now Schumacher has another go at Alesi up the hill. Brundle's all over the back of him as well. Never think for a moment that you've got it made, because this is Grand Prix racing. Everything can suddenly change. Schumacher's got past Alesi. So I'm afraid the director cut it exactly the wrong moment, as Schumacher has got through into 9th place in front of Jean Alesi now. He should be able to start stretching away from him now. But obviously it is still going to take a while. Now if Senna is on a 3-stop strategy, he's opened the gap to 12 seconds over Hakkinen, but he's still going to need some more get out in the lead of the race. Chiba is going to lose ground here to Patrese, who laps him. So Patrese is there in 4th position at the moment, ahead of Berger, behind Thierry Boutsen. The Italian fans will be quite happy about that, because the leading Ferrari is only P6 at the moment. Il Leone himself, Nigel Mansell, currently down in P6. The Ferrari pace, well, the rest of the field have certainly caught them up, haven't they? There's Mika Hakkinen, the reigning world champion. Putting on a show. Now Brundle is going to try and get the move here on Jean Alesi in the Tyrrell. Going to try and force the Tyrrell team out of the points, and one of them's already been lapped, don't forget. In behind out with Frenson. Here comes Brundle. Can he be on the inside? Is he through? He is indeed. So Martin Brundle follows the pursuit of Michael Schumacher, and sadly, it's at the expense of Tyrrell driver Jean Alesi. So Jean Alesi falls out of the points for the time being, in front of Nannini, Frenson, Katayama, and Gugelmin. Here's the Colombian, Roberto Guerrero, for Europe. His pre-qualifying race, which is half distance of the Grand Prix, was cut a bit short, sadly. Managed to make it to the end of the Grand Prix. Sorry, didn't make it to the end of the pre-qualifying race, but he's certainly got a lot further in this one. That's the thing, because you have different strategies from teams depending on whether they're in the Grand Prix or whether they are in the pre-qualifying race, because you have to look after the tyres in a different way. You've only got half the race to play with, half the race distance that you would have a Grand Prix, so you're quite focused. So there is the Tyrrell. Jean Alesi now struggling to keep tabs on Martin Brundle up in front as the field continues on its way. There is Häkkinen, the reigning champion, still having a very solid race of it. Second place for him, 14 seconds back now from Senna. So Senna really is climbing on the lap times again, in the hope that he can really stretch it out. So there is the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher, the two-time race winner earlier so far this year in America and Brazil. But here today at Imola, Ferrari is looking pretty ruddy awful from Mansell and Schumacher's point of view. With a car that could win, it certainly doesn't look like it's going to win today. Mika Häkkinen climbs out of Tosa hairpin and climbs the ladder again. On lap 44 out of 61. We do not have long left of this Grand Prix now. And I've got a sneaky suspicion that Senna might try and sneak in one more pit stop before the end as well. Because he pitted on lap 10, well lap 11 technically I suppose, and on lap 32. So I would suspect we're going to see another quick pit stop from Senna before the end, which is important because he's only 14 seconds ahead of this man, Mika Häkkinen, who may lose the lead and potentially may even lose second to his teammate Lutsen. There's the proof, 19 cars still running right at the back. You have Suzuki, Chiva, Bueno, and Mark Blundell after his problems earlier on for the Benetton team. And the other Benetton of Martin Brundle is currently in the points, 10th position. That'll be great for Lucy Wallwood, the sole proprietor of the Benetton team now. It has totally gone her way with the Apple Benetton Porsche outfit. With Brundle and Blundell on board, there's good potential, but she knows that this is going to be a long programme and a long project. Katayama alongside the Tyrrell and sweeping through. So that's Katayama on Frenson, I think. That's a genuinely pure overtake. So Katayama with the Works Honda clearly able to go in a straight line faster than Frenson in the customer Honda car. And this is the thing, I think it's going to be an interesting one politically with the Honda outfit, because they are the Works outfit and they'll want to start to move up the table. They won't want to stay in pre-qualifying next year, that is for sure. So you're going to get some interesting spectrums of teams. The Works manufacturers will not want to be in pre-qualifying for long, but if you've got the likes of Lamborghini and Honda still trying to make big progress in Grand Prix racing, and they have to come as a fresh entrant. The top 10 is guaranteed a place in the Grand Prix grid in terms of teams. Nobody else is. So if a new team like BMW, for example, or as we've seen with Honda this year comes in, they have to start in pre-qualifying. They can't pick favourites. That's one of the technical challenges that teams have really loved about Grand Prix racing. And of course, midway through the season, when we get to the end of the 8th race of the year, which is going to be the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, the end of that race, there is going to be a change of the top 10 teams. It'll be the top 10 teams currently in the constructors' standings that will progress through to qualifying, which is something that was tried in 1989. It wasn't tried for 1990, but it is now going to be the norm from 1991 onwards. So there is an incentive to try and get some points in the bag to get yourself out of pre-qualifying, as it were. So Häkkinen, 16 seconds back from Senna now. This is really strong from Senna, but Häkkinen is just still plodding along. I hope that Brabham is going to go the distance. Brundle down at the bottom of the hill. No worries for the Benetton driver, really. He's keeping it in the points at the moment. Don't want to put too much pressure on himself at this stage. Just keep it going. There's still 16 laps to go. Ayrton Senna, the Brazilian, is 17 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen in second place in the Brabham. Senna's teammate, Thierry Boutsen, in the second Porsche Williams, is there in third position as Mansell pushes very hard indeed in the Ferrari. Well, that just shows you the pressure he's under to try and get himself up into that top 5. I was going to say that Patrese is in 4th place in the Ligier, in front of Gerhard Berger in the McLaren, and then Mansell in the Ferrari, who dearly needs a result here at Imola. He's had a rotten start to the season. The car has done a phenomenal job because it's won twice in the hands of his teammate Michael Schumacher, but Mansell really hasn't bore any joy from these first 2 races. Indeed, he'd have to get a point station to get his tally off the mark as Berger dives in on one of the back markers there, I think. So Berger comes through in 5th position for the McLaren outfit. It's going very well indeed for Gerhard Berger. He just continues on in P5. Senna still doing a solid in the lead of the race. 17.5 seconds clear of Häkkinen. Boutsen is only 23.7 seconds back from Senna as well, as Martin Brundle is about to let his Formula 3 rival from 8 years ago get past. Well, that's going to be tough for Brundle to see Senna lapping him and pulling clear. That is not in the game plan for Martin Brundle. So Ayrton Senna still doing a fine job in the lead of the San Marino Grand Prix. 14 to go. Just needs to continue his fine form. Now, the third position on the podium looks pretty set and stable for Thierry Boutsen in third place in the Porsche Williams, but Patrese and Berger will still have designs on it. That last stint is going to be crucial as far as getting the title, getting the battle for the third step of the podium one is concerned, because they've still got a deficit of about 18 seconds to the Williams of Thierry Boutsen. But if anybody up front drops away, then suddenly those contenders are looking at a solid podium finish. So it's quite urgent that these drivers look after the tyres and keep themselves in a good position. There is Brundle, trying not to fall into the clutches of Jean Alesi. He took so long to get past him. He now doesn't want to lose the ground made up again. It really would be quite gut-wrenching for Brundle. After all that hard work of getting past him to then lose ground to him later, that wouldn't sit well. But how about this? Michael Schumacher is only a few seconds up the road, and there's a genuine chance that the man who won both of the first 2 races of this year is going to get lapped by the man who is on course to win the third. Now that is a bit of a shock. Nannini, 12th position in the McLaren. He's had absolutely zero pace today, as he did in qualifying either. So it doesn't just look like a qualifying only problem, because you see a few drivers charging their way back from low grid positions, but Nannini, I'm not sure where his head's at. He's certainly not the game the way the other drivers are. So Häkkinen, 18.6 seconds back. This is so neat and tidy from the Finn. Staying in the hunt. He's not really He's going to try and keep it going, and that's Alesi. Alesi spins. Alesi spins, trying to stay close to Martin Brundle. And I'm afraid Jean Alesi really has binned it in the Red Bull Tyrrell. There goes any chance that the team might have had of a point there, really. Unless they've got 3 cars in front of them going to fall off the road. And there's Alesi about to lose ground there to Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche Williams. And will lap the Frenchman without hesitation. Oh no, Alesi is not prepared to give best to Boutsen. And Thierry Boutsen shakes his fist at the Frenchman. What are you playing at? Get out of the way! So now Mika Häkkinen in the Brabham, second position. He's down to 19 seconds back. So even if Senna does need to make that final splash and dash visit to the pits, which he may well do, it's still looking fairly insurmountable. Senna has a decent amount of pace. The car is clearly running on strong terms. Thierry Boutsen having just lapped Jean Alesi in 14th position. position. That is not where Alesi wanted to be. Frentzen, his teammate, is ahead of him in 13th. Clearly, back to the drawing board at Tyrrell. Alesi is being a bit audacious here, trying to get himself back on the inside of Boutsen to unlap himself. But we saw Ratzenberger do fairly similar last time out in the pre-qualifying race. So there is Häkkinen. He's going up all the time, 19.3. This is just the final 12 laps of the 1991 San Marino Grand Prix. But Senna ahead of Häkkinen, Boutsen, Patrese and Berger. Would Senna try and go the whole way now without visiting the pits again? Surely that's too big a risk. So Boutsen is in ahead of the Tyrrell. As they drop down the hill again, there's not really a lot Jean Alesi can do now, except just hope that cars in front of him fall off the road. But Alesi, of course, has got a powerful Honda engine in that Tyrrell. They've been doing a lot of upgrade work on it, so there's not a big difference really in terms of raw pace between the Honda and the back of that Tyrrell. Oh, that's Mansell! Locks up again. Oh dear, Nigel Mansell. I thought bad luck was about to hit him again. I mean, let's be fair, Mansell was rather hoping to go for the victory here in Imola, especially after the team won the first 2 races of the year. I think they were really thinking about the victory rather than 6th position. You can see there's a lot of effort being brought into this from Nigel Mansell. As the gap goes up now to 20 seconds between Senna and Häkkinen. Senna is not that far away from being able to come in one more time and still get out in the lead as Alboreto locks up in the final chicane. And when Senna comes across the line at the end of this lap, he'll have just 10 laps remaining in the San Marino Grand Prix of 1991, which the Porsche Williams team are going to score big in the same way that Ferrari and McLaren have done at the start of the year. They did bang some points on the board when it was in the first 2 races, but not a decent amount to go for the title. This time, they'll definitely be looking that way as Häkkinen. Oh! What on earth was going on there with the Honda of Aguri Suzuki? Mika Häkkinen having to swarm around there. That was a very scary moment for the reigning world champion as Mika Häkkinen storms his way around the outside. That could have been incredibly nasty indeed. Aguri Suzuki clearly not wanting to play ball with the reigning world champion as Senna continues on his way. There's Katayama and he's trying to unlap himself. Katayama following in the wheel tracks of Häkkinen. This is not good news for Häkkinen because the gap has now gone up to 22.2 seconds. He's lost ground having to deal with that Honda, and this is great for Senna. He can pit in if he wants to because I think he's got the cushion now. He doesn't have to panic about this. If he needs a splash and dash before the end, Senna's in prime position to make it happen. But over the top of the hill. A great run so far this for the McLaren. Berger in the top 5, but Nini is outside the top 10. And there's not really a decent solid explanation why. Yellow flags up in front. Oh, that's Brundle. Brundle has dropped it. So Martin Brundle has dropped the car at the bottom of the hill. Now it just looks to me as though he's lost the car and now has to try and get it back in. So that's rather depressing for Martin Brundle. And he's damaged the front wing as well. So Brundle not only has to rejoin down in 14th behind both Tyrrells, but look, he's broken his front wing. So Martin Brundle is very much out of the hunt for points now. And he was in the points. He was in 10th place. So that now goes to Alessandro Nannini, who is given a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card here for the McLaren team to get back into the points again. But at the expense of Martin Brundle, who sadly throws away the points finish. His teammate Brundle has already made his early mistake. So the Benetons, some non-faces of that team. Martin Brundle makes a big mistake and throws away an almost certain points finish. Well, there's Thierry Boutsen, half a minute back from his team leader, Ayrton Senna. So even if Senna were to make a pit stop, a quick splash and dash before the end, and there's 9 laps to go, so it kind of seems like he won't now. He might do so. If that is the case, then it looks to me as though the worst case scenario which Senna's going to find himself in is dropping to second behind Häkkinen, and then he'll be on fresher tyres. So surely he'll have the chance to take on Häkkinen. It's not over yet for points for Tyrrell. Frentzen and Alesi are 12th and 13th. They need a little bit of bad luck up the road in front of them to strike as Senna goes into lap 54. 8 laps remain here at Imola. And Thierry Boutsen is just keeping it nice and tidy. 3rd position. This is a solid team effort from the Porsche Williams team. They are so strong in terms of their tactics. Schumacher has managed to get through on the back marker. He has indeed. He's in 9th position now, the Ferrari. So both the Ferraris are looking for points here, at least, which will give them something to smile about, I'm sure. But obviously it's becoming a very Williams-oriented day. 1st and 3rd position for their two cars. But Schumacher gets some points, which is quite important, actually, to keep the championship alive and kicking with him in the lead. And he scored maximum points in the first 2 races. He's certainly not scored maximum points this time, but at least he'll get some points in the bag. That's the important thing from his perspective. Meanwhile, this is the Italian Riccardo Patrese for the Ligier team, running in 4th position. He's not far from the podium. Riccardo Patrese on a solid run of it. And there is the Brabham and Mika Häkkinen. About to go into lap 56. Sorry, about to go into lap 55, I should say, because Senna has completed 54 laps. So 7 to go. And Senna, Häkkinen, Boutsen, the 2 drivers to have won a world championship that are still running in this race. And versus second, Senna's just disappearing round the outside of these back markers, just carving them through like raisins in a muesli bowl. Absolutely amazing. Senna just charging to the victory. He will feel really disgruntled, but he wasn't in contention really for the win on either occasion in America or Brazil. He did bag some points, which was quite important for his morale going into 1991, of course. Nothing like going for the win. A great rejuvenation as well from Brabham. Even though Prost retired from the race, the fact that Häkkinen is able to compete for the victory for this length of time, it shows that they've really made a step forward as Boutsen nearly has an issue himself. But Thierry Boutsen was very lucky indeed there, actually. Dropping down the hill, we've seen a couple of drivers go off there. Jean Alesi went off. So really got to be very careful how you slow yourself down in that section of the turns. But obviously, it's going to be tight to the end of this San Marino Grand Prix. Certainly for the final few points positions, you've got Mansell in P6, only 2 seconds ahead of Derek Horrick, who's only 6 seconds ahead of Michele Alboreto. So 6th down to 8th is still very much up for grabs. Tyrrells are desperately trying to make an impression on Nannini and Katayama up the road from them, just in case there might be a point or two on hand for the Red Bull Tyrrell team. But it's certainly looking pretty backs to the wall stuff, with just 6 laps to go in the 1991 San Marino Grand Prix here on the Imola circuit. Ferrari, Senna laps Schumacher. That is definitely embarrassing for the German. 2 wins out of 2 in the start of 1991. And Senna just carves through here. Normal service will be resumed as far as the Brazilian is concerned. That's Boutsen coming up to lap the Tyrrell of Frentzen. Well, Frenzen's trying to gain ground on Katayama, so Boutsen's got to be a little patient here. He certainly doesn't want this to all suddenly fall about his ears. He's got a very valuable 3rd position, which will definitely kickstart his 1991 season in fine style. 2nd in qualifying, 3rd in the race. He can be quite happy with the way this has gone, the Belgian. They're still out front on lap 57. 5 to go now. Williams leads Brabham, leads Williams, leads Ligier, leads McLaren. And then it's Ferrari, the 2 Lotuses, the 2nd Ferrari, and the McLaren in the points. It's a good day for points if you are McLaren, Ferrari and Lotus. You've got 2 cars in the points, as indeed, of course, has the Williams team. So the only 2 teams that do not have 2 representatives... That's Häkkinen! That's Häkkinen slowing! Mika Häkkinen and the Brabham is slowing! Oh my goodness, 2nd position for the reigning world champion disappears. Mika Häkkinen with gearbox failure with just 4.5 laps to go. Mika Häkkinen is out. A second place for Brabham, well and truly gone. Oh my goodness, Mika Häkkinen is denied a second place, and this is absolute heaven sent for Williams now. 1 and 2, with Patrese and the Ligier in third position. Just 5 laps from the end. Bitter luck for Brabham. There will be no points for the Brabham team in Imola, as there is Patrese and the Ligier now looking at a podium. That will please Will Knight and the Ligier team without any shadow of doubt. There's going to be an Italian on the podium in Italy. But of course the Tifosi are always very much in favour of these scarlet Ferraris, of which there is no Italian driver in them, of course, but they very much adore the Ferrari cars, even more than the Italian drivers. But I'm sure they'll be happy when they discover that Ricardo Patrese is on course to score a podium at home. Senna, though, is on course to score a win at home, and with the absence now of Mika Häkkinen, that opens up the gap to his teammate to half a minute as Alboreto locks up going down the hill. Well, there you are, last year's winner of the San Marino Grand Prix, Mika Häkkinen, has to retire with just 5 laps to go. And Senna goes into lap 58, 4 remaining, ahead of Thierry Boutsen. Ricardo Patrese. What a battle that is to the finish. And how about that as well? That's 3 drivers who have all raced for Williams at some stage of their careers. As Ricardo Patrese, of course, last raced for the team in 1989 at the start of 1990. Roberto Guerrero locks up in the Ford Eurobrin, still trying to get that car to the finish. It's a big step forward for Ford and for the Eurobrin outfit here. They just needed to get into the Grand Prix to get some mileage in, to get some data for the remainder of the season, and they definitely turned the developmental corner. They're going to be very happy with their lot. Done a very exceptional job indeed here. So up the top of the hill comes Ayrton Senna, the 1988 world champion. He dominated the Formula 1 championship with his then teammate Alain Prost in 1988. He then fought for it controversially with a collision at Suzuka in 1989. Last year, he had a McLaren that was fast but not reliable, and he managed to get to the finish of the Australian Grand Prix in the top 3. He would have been world champion a second time. It was not to be. He still curses it. He still says in his mind, I feel like a double world champion. He did everything right. And it was the car that let him down, not him. Boutsen, 36 seconds behind his teammate. This has been a brilliant day at the races for the Porsche Williams team in the end. They've done a fantastic job. And of course the Honda team now find themselves in 10th position for Ukyo Katayama. So the team that's come through from pre-qualifying is now in the points. But Ukyo Katayama has already watched his teammate. I was going to say Katayama's made a mistake, but no, it was his teammate Suzuki that made a mistake. He does not want to throw away the victory here, as far as the team are concerned, of getting into the points. As Eddie Chiba gets out of the way and lets Ayrton Senna come through. 2 laps to go. Porsche Williams Renaissance is so strong. It's a great start to the rejuvenation for the Porsche Williams team. Front row of the grid, lockout in qualifying and doing just such a darndest good job. Berger and Mansell are going to miss out on the podium by the look of things. Oh, and that's the Honda pulling off! That's Katayama! He's going to lose the final point! Oh no, wait, that's Suzuki. That's a Goody Suzuki. I do apologise. So that is a Goody Suzuki in the other Honda. Pulling out with just a lap and a half to go, essentially. So Suzuki will not make the flag. It's been a bit of a miserable San Marino Grand Prix from his perspective, as Ayrton Senna comes out of the final turn and across the line to start the final lap of the San Marino Grand Prix here in Imola. And the Porsche Williams team on the oh my goodness! Senna's got smoke out of the back of his car! Smoke out of the back of the Porsche Williams! I do not believe it! The race leader, Ayrton Senna! Smoke billowing out of the back of the car! Now, well, Oh my God, can he actually get this to the flag? He's doing everything he can. Senna is trying to push the car home. Big smoke coming off the car. Senna is wrestling with this car. Come on, get home, get home. It is absolute drama for Senna. This is just heartbreak for Senna. Can he make it to the finish or not? He's driven the perfect race. The victory is in the bag, but he just needs the car to get him down the hill. Lift and coast. Can he make it through? No, he's going to lose it. He goes off the road and Senna is out on the final lap of the San Marino Grand Prix. Can you believe it? The Brazilian is out. And there goes the win for Ayrton Senna. It will be his teammate Thierry Boutsen that inherits it. But of all times for it to go up in smoke, why did it have to be on the final lap? Senna will be absolutely gutted. It will be ambivalence like you won't believe at Williams. Boutsen passes the scene. He takes the lead. And Thierry Boutsen is going to inherit the victory. Just like Canada last year for Ayrton Senna, he loses it on the last lap. And it's his teammate, Thierry Boutsen, that will come home to take the victory. Thierry Boutsen wins the San Marino Grand Prix. And Patrese is out. Patrese is dropping out in the final moments of the race. He was meant to be in second place. Oh my goodness, Patrese falling off the road. First Hakkinen, then Senna, and now Patrese. Second place gone for Ligier. That means that Berger is going to get second position in the McLaren after all of that. Unbelievably good luck for McLaren. And third position, the fans go bananas. The Tifosi have a Ferrari on the podium. Nigel Mansell comes through for third in front of Warwick and Alboreto. I cannot believe the scenes we have here in Imola. The fans have gone berserk. Oh my goodness. Boutsen wins. Berger is second. Mansell is third for Ferrari. And the Lotuses come home in fourth and fifth ahead of Schumacher and Nannini. McLaren was so lucky to salvage that kind of point score. And of course Katayama is going to maintain 10th position because Senna and Patrese will be classified as point scorers. But those were the men, Senna and Patrese, who were going to be first and third before that all went down. But it's Boutsen, Thierry Boutsen, the man who started second on the grid, inherits the victory from Gerhard Berger and Nigel Mansell. Derek Warwick and Michele Alboreto in the top 5 for Lotus. Schumacher is 6th. And then Nannini. Senna is classified as 8th. Patrese as 9th. And Katayama in 10th position. The Tyrrells miss out on points. Gugelmin and Brundle likewise. And there were a fair few finishers behind them that were not actually across the line. Chiva, Blandel, Guerrero, and then, of course, Suzuki and Hakkinen are classified as finishers, even though they didn't finish the race. Irvine, Bernard, Modena, Prost, Tracy, Piquet and Fernandez, the 2 Arrows cars, out of the race. But the big drama is that Senna loses the Grand Prix on the final lap, despite the fact that he has conquered all from the start. Look at that lap, 1.3 quicker than Prost.
So, a lot of mixed emotions at Williams. Delight for the victory for Thierry Boutsen. Heartbreak for Ayrton Senna, losing on the very last lap of the Grand Prix. However, we go to his favourite playground next, the streets of Monte Carlo. Can the Brazilian finally nail his first win of 1991? We're going to find out next time. I'm Jake Sanson. See you soon.